And first, I must acknowledge Mr. Das, who was our first. He took the initiative of forming the prostate support group movement about 15 years ago, and I think, and about 5 years ago, we formed the Prostate Cancer Society, and he was our first president. And our committee consists of 15 people. Now, to our left-hand side is Dato Chia Kong Wai, and he's our vice president. And next to him is Stephen Kong, who is also managing the Zoom on the technical side. And just next to him is Albert Liu, who's our assistant secretary, who's doing a lot of research and lately coordinating our Blue Cap run as well between our members. And recently, we have just submitted 100 runners for the Blue Cap run. And the other executive member is Mr. Kong, KL Kong. And he has been our treasurer for a long time. A very dedicated man and very frugal. And that's why, you know, our society is not too bad financially. Okay. And the others are the next 10 committee members. The first one is Dr. Joseph and he is our Sarawak representative. And he has a PhD in geriatric. And next to him is Francis Chan, representing Sarawak. And next to him is Chu Yong Ket. Chu Yong Ket said that he's unfortunate he cannot come in because he got another commitment. And next to him is Rosley. Rosley didn't submit his photograph. I don't know why. And Rosley is also a PhD. He's a lecturer in Ipoh. And next to him is Dr. Lawrence Koo, and he's our Penang representative. And below that is Mr. Chua Singh, our representing Johor and Malacca. He's from Malacca. And next to him is Peter Wong, who is also the exercise support group president. And next to him is Mr. Danny Sim. Danny Sim is a very active member and who was really doing a lot on our generic initiative in the beginning together with Albert. And next to him is Dato Varapan. And Varapan is also a very active member. And the final one is Mr. Yong Yam Fat, and he has been a committee member for a long time. So I'll go to the next slide. And the next slide, because we are running short of time, you know, I have no time. As this map shows, we have 13 branches all over Malaysia, including Sarawak and Sabah. And when there was no MCO, once every 2 months, physically, we go to the various branches and try to support the prostate cancer patient in the big hospitals, like the General Hospital in Penang, JB, you know, in Sarawak, Sabah, and Malacca. Malacca, we did it in the NCSM. And in the Klang Valley, we have subgroups in 6 centers, well, Sunway, NCSM, HKL, HUKM, UMMC, and SJMC. And I'm sure I missed out one of them as well. Okay, never mind. All right, I will go through what activities we have done in the past. Then you know that we were very active. We will work together with University Malaya, UMC, a Blue Cap Run. Of course, this year Blue Cap Run is with the Urological Trust. I'll talk a little bit more about Urological Trust later on. And for last 3, when there was no MCO, we have 3 Blue Cap Run. And when it started in 2015, and unfortunately for a few years, we have frozen it because of commitment by UMMC. Anyway, it was very successful. And you can see here in the next view graph, this is a typical blue cap run, which have about, normally we have about 1,500 runners, you know, and it is like a carnival. And this is how it started off, you know. And every year was a really joyful event. And every year we raise some funds. And normally Prostate Cancer Society get about 10 to 30,000 donation from UMMC towards our running of our society. And we are grateful to them. And of course, we contribute a lot of participants as usual. And we have forums and physical forums. Now, this one is a forum in HUKM, which has about 350 members turning up, or a member of public as well. And sitting in the front row are the professors, you know, Professor Go, Professor Fuad, Professor Zul, and Mr. Das is sitting here, and myself, and Stephen Kong is next to you, is sitting here. Okay, the next one is, that is HUKM, and hey, I got stuck with a minute, just one. Well, wait, just hold on. All right, this one is the forum in UMMC, and of course the prominent guys are Prof Ong, Prof Manisa. All these are really, and Prof Shankar. These are, of course, the real experts of prostate cancer. I mean, we are very lucky that, you know, we have people like them who dedicate themselves and have their field of interest in prostate cancer, and they are working, you know, very closely with us. And we go to Ipoh, and this is the Ipoh General Hospital. We normally have about 20 or 25 people attending, a lot of new guys and need a lot of support. And here is Subang Jaya, SGMC. Again, we have a very good working relationship with SGMC, even though it's a private hospital. The oncologists and the urologists are very supportive of us. And in Penang, and we work with the Penang General Hospital. And right in front here is Dr. Lawrence. And again, you know, we used to go there once every 2 months to ensure that everything works well, okay? And the next one is, this is, I think this is an unusual big crowd in a support group meeting, the top one. In this meeting, we have a support group meeting, we have 90 people turn up. We have to put into a, of course, the main draw is Prof Manisa, who is our what do you call, prostate oncologist, together with Prof Ong. And this is another support group meeting of a lower size, about maybe 30 something, with Dr. Yo. Okay. And this is another one. I just show you another sample of this one is in KK. And again, this is a big crowd. And of course, KK, we always do in a big way. They even call the press along, the Daily Express, and having interviews and so on. So that was it's quite another thing, yeah. So we can always make our soapboxes on accessibility to drugs and so on. Now let's see the next one. This is NCSM, National Cancer Society. Always also big crowd, about 30 or 40 people. And HKL, you see, again, this one is again about 30 people. And that talk, just by accident, is my son is giving a talk on how prostate cancer attack the bones. He is an orthopedic surgeon. And the next one is we have to go down a bit. I think we are coming to the end now. Let's see. Wait, what is it? NCSM, HKL, and then The next one is that during the last government, we worked very closely. This is YB Dr. Lee Yun Choi, and he was assistant because at that time we were very aggressive, tried to influence him to get generic arbitron acetate, which is very important to prolong our survival. And I think later on, Prof. Ong will tell us, hopefully, from now on, the cancer survivorship will extend at least 2 more years for stage 3 and stage 4 patients. Because the last time, all the survey they've done, the results from Malaysia is not encouraging. Okay, and we even worked very lobby with the minister then, because unfortunately the new government is all on MCO. We hardly able to meet them, and we met with the last minister, and we were fighting very hard then to get a second generic to come in. And sure enough, now we have the second generic, and we can get the generic drug for arbitron acetate at a very, very reasonable price, 1,004. And we will have to buy it through our society, and it's only about 1,004. And if you take it one tablet a day, it is quite economically to use. And okay, there are a lot of public events we attended, and when it was okay to attend then. And now, of course, the final one, you see, this is a typical example of our annual high tea. We have one tea party on every annually, but unfortunately now we can't do it for the last 2 years. Okay, now we adapt very well. So we adapt to Zoom meeting, and surprisingly, we prosper with the Zoom meeting. So now we call everybody from everywhere over Malaysia. Now we have 114 people coming in here now. So we average about every meeting once every month. We have about 150 people turning up for our Zoom meeting from all over Malaysia. And on top of that, we have a regional meeting so that we get closer to the people. Okay. There's another Zoom meeting. Anyway, this is a Zoom meeting with our Prof. Ong there. And the last one is that we also meet the ministry. Now, this one is the Assistant Director General before the last budget. And we told them the same story about how to get cheaper drugs for survival time for our people. It's very important because the targeted therapy is so expensive, like arbitron acetate, enzalutamide are so expensive that we literally killing the Malaysian people who cannot afford to have this second liner, and then that can easily extend 2 years of their life, 2 or 3 years of their life. Okay, I have more or less come to the end of the introduction of the Prostate Cancer Society. I will like to, wait a minute, I think we can stop share screen now. Wait, just hold on. I stopped share. Did I stop share, Stephen? Yeah? Resume
one thing, your screen is still on.
My screen is still on. Now I have to stop share, right? Wait, pause share, okay. So now I have to stop share, right, to get out. Never mind. Okay, I'll keep on talking, and what I do is that now I'm going to introduce Dato Sri Nazir Razak, and he will give the keynote address, okay, or speech. I think everybody knows who is Dato Sri Razak, and he's currently the chairman and founding partner of Ikhlas Capital. Now, of course, you know that he retired from CIMB after 29 years career. Now, he retired, of course, at the very peak, the chairman of this ASEAN banking group. And of course, you know that throughout this tenure, he was the driving force behind CIMB from a small investment bank to a regional universal bank in ASEAN. And there are various accolades to the name of CIMB. Now, aside from all these various milestones of achievement, in the financial sector. He has continuously contributed to this beloved community, the Malaysian community. More important, in addition to all that, he is a prostate cancer survivor. He is one of us. Now, he joined the Board of Trustees of the University Malaya, or UMMC, Cancer Trust Fund. And that's where I first met him. Yeah, of course, I know how he works. He is a really, what you call a go-getter and getting things done. Now, he has the hope of helping other men to combat prostate cancer, just like all of us in Prostate Cancer Society, by raising awareness. And that is very important. As we know, Malaysia is not doing that well in prostate cancer. Compared to other countries, you know, we have 60% of diagnoses are in stage 3 or stage 4. Other developed countries, it's only about 40. Pathetic. We try to reverse that. And what he's trying to do is try to promote early detection. And you will find out, I think he will tell you later, that he is going to launch a massive PSA test. And he's now educating a lot of GP for, you know, for knowledge of prostate cancer. As you all know, GP, you go and see GP, they are really blank about prostate cancer at this moment in time. And sometimes, and it's very dangerous because they might even transmit wrong information, okay? And the most important thing also, Dato Sri provide resources and substantial funds for all these activities through his raising funds and so on. Now, currently, of course, Dato Sri is looking for bigger things and advocates for a national reset to recalibrate our politics by setting up a better Malaysia Assembly. Hope we can be part of it. Yeah, a better Malaysia Assembly. Now, he has just written a book and he's just released, and it's called What is in a Name? And he's going to tell his Malaysian story, his Malaysian story, and his recommendation on the journey ahead for Malaysia. Now, it is very lucky, he's fortunate that he agreed that he will take a few questions after his speech. Now, shall we unmute ourselves and give him a big hand of applause for Dato Sri Nazir Razak, our fellow prostate cancer survivor. Okay, Dato Sri, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Konting, and good afternoon, ladies.
And now you guys have to mute again. Hey, Stephen, you have to mute everybody.
Yeah, you give me 1 minute. I'll mute everybody. Dato Sri, after that, unmute yourself. Sorry for the technical.
It's all right.
Dato Sri, can you please unmute yourself?
I think I'm unmuted now, right?
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, can you please proceed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And once again, thank you for the inviting me here and for the introduction. Kwan Sing, I didn't realize that you've done some research in terms of my background and what I'm up to. Thank you also for that briefing on the work of the Prostate Cancer Society. You know, I know how important it is to have you know, a group like yours to be supportive of cancer patients and cancer survivors. Been there, realize what was needed and how important something like that is. Now, Kwan Sing thought that it would be interesting just for me to quickly share my journey through this disease and also then talk about what my plans are for helping the kind of growing, increasing awareness of prostate cancer here in Malaysia. Now, basically, I wanted in October 2018 to buy a new insurance policy. And as part of that, I was required to do a medical check and that was all. I had lived a very busy life and had not paid so much attention to regular checkups. And I'd lived a pretty stressful life, had not paid enough attention to my health generally, and also to managing stress. Yeah. So quite casually, I took that medical test, expecting nothing because I was completely asymptomatic. And of course, they then told me my PSA was on the high side. I think it was 7 or so. I then was surprised, but went to see a urologist anyway, and we did a scan. And he said, "Look, it looks pretty suspicious. You better do a biopsy." And that's when it kind of set in that really I might have prostate cancer. So I called my friend, Dr. George Lee. I was in London at the time, and he said, "Look, this is the top guy in urology." So he introduced me to someone called Professor Proka Dasgupta, and I went to see him. He looked at my papers and said, "Look, absolutely, you need to do a biopsy." So at the end of 2018, I did a biopsy. And when the results came out, I remember it was 18th December 2018, 3:15 p.m. My wife and I marched to his office, and he told me that, "Look, confirmed you have prostate cancer, and actually the results are slightly worse because your Gleason score is very high, it's 9. So therefore, we need to go in and sort it out immediately." I was quite taken aback. You see these scenes on movies, and you guys have been through it as well. Somehow or other, when you actually go through it yourself, you're almost it is like an out of body experience because you don't quite digest it. But I kind of stepped back and said, "Look, let's just do what we need to do." So we discussed it, and he says, "Look, you've just recover from biopsy, and then we're going to go in and remove the prostate immediately." I only remember saying, "Hey, look, I have promised my children one thing, which is to take them on their first ski trip ever. So I'm still going to go ahead with that." And it was amazing to think that I had prostate cancer and I could still go skiing for a week. And as soon as I finished skiing, I went on the operation table. And so that's how lethal this thing can be. You really have no symptoms at all. And yet, what Proka told me was in 3 to 4 months with the Gleason score that high, this thing most likely would have spread. And of course, as you all know, once it's spread, the chances of survival is much less. And the process of trying to kind of deal with it is much, much more traumatic. So I had my surgery, and of course, the good news was everything went very well. Took a few months and all that, but thankfully, I fully recovered, and my PSA tests are regularly 0. I've had a few regular zeros now, so I think that touch wood, everything is behind me. But when I reflected on my experience and all that, I realized that, look, I am very, very lucky because, I had, it was just pure chance that I found out about it. And 2, I had the right advice and the resources to deal with it effectively. And, I owe it to others to help out so that, others can be as lucky as me. And so I basically called my friend George Lee again and invited a few urologists over to my house. And I remember Prof Ong was amongst them. There was about 4 or 5 that came to my house, and I said, "Look, this happened to me, and how can I help? How can I help others? How can I make others as lucky as me?" And they were telling me about the challenges faced here in Malaysia in terms of dealing with this disease in terms of what Kwan Sing mentioned in terms of high number of late discovery, 60%. And certainly in other countries is much, much lower. Kwan Sing mentioned 40, I think closer to 30. Ours is 60. And we need to understand why, and we definitely need to increase awareness so that people don't wait. And also we need to understand, the reason for the hesitation to check. And so many people I've heard of basically just want to keep quiet. They have frequent need to go to the toilet at nights, and they just want to keep quiet about it. They have sexual dysfunctions. They want to keep quiet about it. It's very cultural. And that's why, last year, I began this campaign working together with we call it Only Men Can. And we had this campaign November last year to increase awareness. I went very, very public with my experience with prostate cancer, and so that more and more people will be very comfortable talking about it. And I realized that it is not that easy to find people to want to go out and talk about it so openly. Yeah, people are generally shy about it, and people in Malaysia don't really like talking openly about things so much either, which I found a bit frustrating. I had a lot of good friends who were happy to give me money to contribute to our fund, but they didn't want to step up and talk about their own experiences or their family members' experiences. But anyway, so I do it. I hope I find others who are willing to do it in time. And of course, it's November now, and we are embarking on this annual 1-month campaign in conjunction with Movember month to increase awareness. And you will see over the next few weeks, we have our run, run that we're doing together with CIMB, my old bank, this year. And we're also going to have lots of advertisements and so on TV and on the media. And the good news is this year, the old Ola Bola team, Sochin An, Santok Singh, and all those guys have signed up. They are going to be our ambassadors for prostate cancer this year. And so I'm quite excited about that. I'm very thankful that they're willing to help us out. And last year I also shared that we did a survey. We commissioned a survey about awareness on prostate cancer, and it's extremely low. I think 40% of the people we surveyed thought that both men and women have prostate. This is the kind of lack of awareness in Malaysian society. 40% think women have prostate, and 60% didn't even know that family history is important in determining the probability of getting it in future. And 90% of the people we surveyed didn't even know what a PSA test was. Yeah, and so there's a lot of work to do, and so I put it down to lack of awareness, but also cultural reasons why people don't like to talk about these problems that they have. We want wives to also come up and tell their husbands, look, you're going to the toilet too frequently, or and whatever problems we may have, this could be prostate cancer. Please go and get it checked. So we've raised quite a bit of money, I think, in the trust. So we have quite a lot of resources to spend on this awareness. And in time, I'm also hoping to be able to raise more resources so that we can increase the availability of free testings for people who need free tests. Yeah, and that's expensive, obviously. You all know, especially if we do it worldwide. I'm also looking to ways we can work with My Sejahtera so that we can have the data in terms of men who are most vulnerable to prostate cancer, those between 50 and 70 and so on, so that we can engage them more in a more focused way. Yeah. So perhaps the other thing I would just like to flag out is that we're all in this great challenge of increasing awareness of prostate cancer. And I would really love to hear any ideas you may have, any feedback you may have for me, for Kwan Seng, for Prof. Ong, etc., how we can do better at awareness or any other ways we can help this community of ours. So I'm happy to spend a bit of time after this hearing feedback if Kwan Seng will allow that. If I may just close with saying that I'd like to thank your society and also the people who are working together with us in this very noble cause of making prostate cancer less deadly and also generally lessen the suffering of Malaysian men from this disease. Thank you. Let me close there, and hopefully Kwan Seng will let me hear some feedback. Thank you.
Okay. It's great. As I said earlier on, Dato Sri agreed that we'll take a few questions. I'm quite sure a lot of you guys are really interested in us a few questions. Maybe I started off with fire first shot. Dato Sri, actually it's the first time I hear you that you have a Gleason score 4+5. And that means, as we know, all of us, all of us are prostate cancer survivors, and we know the severity. Your cancer is a bit aggressive. Not really aggressive, it's a bit aggressive. And on top of that, you were diagnosed at 53 years old, so was very young. And the way to survive, I mean, I'm not advising, but is, as I advise many of our guys here, the only way to survive is learn as much as possible about your enemy. It's a Sun Tzu art of war. I'm quite sure you learn it in business school. If you know your enemy well, you will fight against it with the best tools you have, the best knowledge you have. So with that, I think, as you see here, we have about 100 over, and altogether we have about 350 survivors altogether, all over Malaysia. When we have a lot of data, and if the most logical thing is to join your fellow survivors, and then we will fight together. Anyway, we hope that you will make the plunge and join us. Anyway, okay. Let me pass on to open the thing to you guys. Anybody wants that question? Please raise your hand. Go ahead, Albert.
Thank you, Kwan Seng. I am Albert, Member Recruitment Officer for Prostate Cancer Society Malaysia. Dato Sri, thank you for sharing your prostate cancer journey with us. Today's meeting should be somehow special for you because instead of talking to bankers and CEOs of corporate companies, you are sharing an afternoon with fellow cancer survivors who share the same fear, pains, and hopes. On behalf of our members here, we wish to invite Dato Sri to be a member of Prostate Cancer Society Malaysia so that you can help us to strengthen our machinery to give support for those who have the same cancer like us. Extend a membership application to Dato Sri in the near future.
Stephen Kong, can you please do that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Dato Sri.
No problem.
Thank you.
Happy to join.
Okay, good. Second request, that's very good. Any other, who is the next one? Please.
Ellen.
Ellen, Colonel Ellen. Colonel Anna Lai. You want to ask something, Colonel?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, KS, for inviting Dato Sri. I think his membership is a given. He will join us no matter what. It's a given. I really think he will, because he already said, let's work together and find a formula. Then, of course, will take some more time. His initiatives are already amazing. It's really on track, and Dato Sri has always got the clarity of thought. I am really amazed. So what I'm trying to say is, as a military personnel, I'm not sure how many more military personnel here. Maybe a couple.
Yeah,
more.
one or two more. One or two colonels as well.
Yeah, but most of them are in my cohort, and they are not willing to join as well. So there is this problem of, societal or cohort fraternity. They are not convinced yet. Although I am convinced that we are almost 200 people in membership and we are doing very well. So what I would like to ask Dato Sri and plead to him, if we can participate a little bit more in our activities. I'm sure Dato Sri would have many more other activities to share and to make Malaysia a better place. For us, let us make Malaysian males safe, healthy, and survive PSA. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, happy to support and be a member and undertake activities from time to time as requested.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dato Sri. Yeah, we got it.
Kuan Seng, I got one question to Dato Sri.
All right, okay, Stephen, go ahead.
Stephen Kong here, I'm secretary. I think one of the challenges that we patients face is affordable pricing. I don't know what role you can help in terms of looking about affordable pricing. As you know, I mean, cancer strikes at all level of patients, be it B40 or whatever range they are. I think moving forward, we want to, one of our avocations in Prostate Cancer Society is to prolong life, improve quality of life. But with such expensive medications in treating prostate cancer, I think this will be a big challenge. I don't know how you can help us to promote in terms of affordable pricings. I think that will be the key that we look forward to.
Yeah, that is a good point, Stephen. In fact, this morning I had another forum with, actually the other guy is Nurul Azhar, Anwar's daughter, as MP, together with Prof. Aisha and all that. And one of the things that we are really worried about is really the affordability of medicine, which of course we are all very passionate. And you know that in prostate cancer, when you come to the last stage of near to a final stage, you need targeted therapy like ABI and ENZA and so on and so forth. And these are the really life-lengthening drugs or medicine. They are very important to us. Now, for one drug, ABI, we managed to get about 1/8 of the price as before. And now we can get it for 1,004. Before it was about 7,000. So, and then of course, we're lucky that MU can come out with a possibility of taking even 1/4 dose. So we are trying to spread that one to breast cancer also. Like breast cancer is the HER2. That means the Herceptin. And now they have generic, but generic is still very expensive. And we have to get that down as well. But and we come back to prostate cancer. Yes, in the past, I think, or Prof. Ong afterwards will tell us that from the data from his study, the data is not very encouraging, for people with stage 4 and stage 3, because the overall survival time is very low. And it's very fortunate that our members here survive much longer. And perhaps because most of us live in the Klang Valley, has good accessible medication. And yet, I foresee that in the future, prostate cancer survivorship will extend about a couple of years if you do it as statistically average. Okay. All right. Yeah, if Dato Sri can help us to get access, other than ABI is still arbitrary acetate, other treatment like, ENZA is the other one. Because in prostate cancer, the more bullets we have to shoot our enemy, the longer we survive. Now we are getting, hopefully you will help us towards the end to extend our survivorship. Okay.
I at the moment, my focus is really on this whole awareness campaign, and in terms of subsidization, it's been focused on the PSA testing. So in terms, I've not really touched this whole treatment part of the equation.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to Prof. Ong and others, maybe the ministry and all that, to see how I can help. Obviously, the government is coming up with a new framework for national insurance and social safety net generally. So maybe we can think about that in that context as well. Let me look at this, Kwan Sing.
Yeah, we hope you drift towards that, Now, of course, the initial stage is awareness, and slowly we come to really the welfare, or the welfare of all the prostate cancer people.
Like these things. There's just so much to do, right? It's never quite ending. Now that I'm so involved in prostate cancer, people are calling me saying, "Why don't you get involved in cancer as a whole?" Why don't you get involved in that? So it's never ending.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. Okay, and any other question?
Yes, Kwan Sing, can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead, Albert.
Another, maybe just a comment, Dato Sri. Okay, for prostate cancer, we also need to do some scans when we call them PSMA PET scans. And as far as I know, there's only one PSMA PET scan in IKN, owned by the government, and the rest are owned by the private Sunway or Beacon and all this. So, but the PET scan, if you want to do it in IKN, you need to make an appointment. It will take months. So, and the next thing is you got to go to Beacon Hospital to do it, but it will be at 3,200. And in Sunway, probably going to pay about 5,000. So maybe we could actually ask the government to install more PET scans machine in Malaysia so that we can have more scannings.
Yeah, maybe we have a comment by Prof. Ong is here. Prof. Ong, what can you say about the importance of the PSMA scan on the initial stage?
Thanks everyone.
Sorry to drag you in.
That's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Because nowadays, just to lay the background, there's this PET scan called PSMA PET scan. It's in vogue here this day, and also heavily promoted by Australian. Because Australian, everything they use the PSMA PET scan one for everything. So the hurdle here, there are two hurdle here, of which of course we can overcome in the future. Hurdle is just temporarily. Number one is the cost, like we mentioned, because IKN, the resources is limited, and the reagents very expensive, So that's why University Malaysia still they're trying to get it. They will get it one day. They are the nuclear medicine physician. They're run by nuclear medicine physician, like later on, Dr. Lingeswaran is a doctor like that, nuclear physician. So that's number one, cost. So number two, when to use it, when it's something new, people like to use it a lot, So how useful it is, a lot of time, certain area quite sure, certain area not so sure. It's quite sure in very advanced disease, when the disease has progressed at very far already. At that stage, like castrate-resistant prostate cancer, that stage we have more information. At the very beginning, like Dato Seri, when first time get the PSA of 7, I think nobody will ask for a PSMA PET scan one, Yeah, maybe Australia will ask for that, because there's not enough evidence to show that is helpful, you see. So that is the problem. Number one is the cost. Number two, the correct use of it is still not established. So that's the two challenges we have at the moment.
Okay.
All
right. Well, there are a lot of angles that we can fight for. Anyway, we need more soldiers like Dato Sri to help us to get what we want. Any more questions, please?
Hello, Assalamualaikum, Dato Sri. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Who is that?
Rajesh, I'm from Astrawani here.
Okay, Astrawani. Good. Go ahead.
Okay, kita ada banyak question untuk Dato Sri ni sebenarnya, but anyway, congratulations, you are a cancer survivor. Actually, kita pun tak tahu sebenarnya, ni baru tahu. Okay. Okay, Dato' Sri, kita dengar daripada apa yang Dato' Sri cerita tadi, mengenai awareness, macam mana kita nak educate people sekarang ni di Malaysia sendiri agak kurang pengetahuan dan ada awareness about prostate cancer lah. So apa plan Dato' Sri sebenarnya untuk educate people and build up the awareness di kalangan rakyat Malaysia, dan actually berapa mahal sebenarnya nak test untuk detect yang ada sekarang ni, teknologi yang ada sekarang ni untuk prostate cancer ni. How much you spend money by the time you kena cancer itu hari? Dato' Sri, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dari segi awareness ni, kita tiap-tiap tahun di bulan November kita bermulakan kempen. Kita ada kempen lah. Saya pun tahun lepas saya bekerja dengan Astro juga. Masa tahun lepas saya naik program sampai berbulu dengan burn pun saya masuk cakap pasal prostate cancer. Ya, jadi tahun ni pun diorang dah buat plan program-program untuk kita berbincang. Seperti saya kata tadi, So Chin An, Santok Singh dan geng-geng dia pun akan appear di dalam program di Astro dan lain-lain. Ya. Yang keduanya, tapi kita tak nak cakap pasal be aware aja. Kita kena beritahu untuk orang laki-laki siapa yang paling vulnerable, iaitu grup umur 50 hingga 70. Dan yang ada dan orang lelaki yang ada sign-sign yang lain, dan itu seperti selalu Y kecil, ataupun sexual dysfunction, benda-benda macam itulah. Kita punya advice orang bila between the age of 50 hingga 70 sepatutnya buat check up PSA test setahun sekali. Itu advice kita. Ya, dan itulah isu dia dari segi cost. Dan saya dah tengah berbincang untuk ada program supaya untuk orang susah kita dapatkan free testing untuk semua. Ini yang challenge dia. Kalau kita buat calculation itu, Kuan Seng, I don't remember. Is it 15 ringgit? Is it? Was it the
Yeah, we're going to launch it for free.
Yeah.
And the trust fund will pay only 15 ringgit or 13 ringgit to the National Cancer Society for.
Is the
13 ringgit.
Is the cost, and we want to pay that on behalf of those that need lah. Tapi even if you say that the cost, how many people can you pay for? There's something like 6.8 million men over between 50 and 70. So you can imagine the cost of bearing that. Even if you take 1 million of them doing a test every year, the cost is very, very high. So this is what we need to work on, finding donors to help, but also reducing the cost of the PSA test. Dan saya nak cakap juga yang satu lagi program kita tengah buat sekarang ni ialah untuk bagi tuition untuk GPs, ya, supaya sekarang ni kalau GPs ni bila dia jumpa patient, dia orang banyak GP tak berapa tahu macam mana nak treat patients yang ada PSA test positif atau ada sign-sign yang lain. Jadi kita dah buat program dan sekarang ni kita nak launch akhir tahun ni supaya semua GP boleh datang online course dengan kita, dan ada modul-modul dia untuk supaya lebih ramai GP bila jumpa patient tahulah bila nak cakap you look like you might have prostate cancer, you better have a test.
Yeah. Malaysia in a way is very fortunate. In a survey that Prof Ong and group done recently, among men, only 1 in 117 men in their lifetime get prostate cancer, compared to, let's say, in the States is 1 in 7 men. So we are way better than the Western society. And I always blame that because I spent a long time in the developed world, in the States and in UK, That's why I fell into the Western world statistic. That's why I got prostate cancer. But maybe it's because the food we eat, you know, less fatty and so on. But even then, what I'm trying to say is that the PSA test is a bit unfortunate. That means our success rate of detection will be quite low, because especially the younger ones. It's very unusual that people like Dato Sri at the age of 53 get prostate cancer.
Guys, dan semua yang actually, bagaimana dengan modul-modul yang pernah ada di luar negara lah. Kita tahu negara kita ni macam Dato' Sri cakap, dia quite sensitive nak cakap simptom-simptom awal yang menandakan kita dia mengalami kanser prostat. Ada part-part yang agak sensitif, bukan daripada kebudayaan biasa lah yang Malaysia. Mungkin kerana itu menghalangi dari kita berbicara secara openly dekat luar tu. So apa yang Dato' Sri fikirkan, dan mungkin ada contoh modul luar negara yang boleh kita implement di sini yang lebih baik?
Kalau kita tengok di UK, campaign awareness ni pun ada, tapi dia dah kira advance. Yang kalau kita tengok banyak football club actually, macam Queen's Park Rangers, Derby County, semua dia punya CSR program ni prostate cancer awareness. Sebab dan kalau tengok di sana dari segi GP dia semua memang pengetahuan tentang penyakit ni dah agak tinggi, dan ketiga dari segi culture lah, budaya dia orang tak malu kalau cakap pasal isu-isu ni. Kita ni segan sikit kalau sexual function ke dan lain-lain ni, kita segan. Itu sebab saya terpaksa lah. Saya bukan suka naik program meletup bincang pasal sexual function, tapi terpaksa lah. Kalau saya buat, insyaAllah orang lain pun tengok, orang lain pun berani sikit nak buat.
I think ED is a problem to all of us. And again, you know, of the statistics show that 90% of those people who went for surgery get ED almost immediately. That is really. But on the other hand, I think Dr. George Lee is here, and there are a lot of measures which you can deal with.
Don't use the acronym ED, erectile dysfunction.
Yes.
Yeah. If you use ED,
all of us know about it. Don't worry about it, because we have discussed it in a previous meeting, I think. I thought I saw some guy named himself George. I must be George Lee. Yes,
sorry, Kwan Sing, can we have Chen Chi-Kiat, because he raised hand. I think he has a question.
Okay, Chen Chi-Kiat, go ahead.
Hello, Dato' Sri.
Hi.
Can you tell us, do you have any side effects after your surgery?
Well, it was progressive lah. It was progressive, and of course, when the prostate is removed, it takes time for your sexual functions to come back fully, and it never comes back exactly the same. So that's one side effect. I think, you know, for me, that's about it lah. That was about it.
So do you still suffer incontinence?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think I go to the I probably go to the toilet once a night. I think that's quite normal for people my age anyway. Yeah.
Then you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the outcome, and you know that's why when people ask me, I do suggest you think about the robotic surgery, because it's just more precise. The danger is, you know, when you don't do the robotics, I think the risk of touching the wrong nerves, etc., is higher.
Yeah. Just now you mentioned that your PSA is at 0.0, right?
Yes.
Okay, but according to HKL in Malaysia, there's no machine that can measure to 0.0. I always get my reading at 0.01.
I don't know. Prof Ong will know better lah. I get my PSA test and they always tell me your PSA is 0. Maybe it's 0.01. I don't know.
Okay. It depends on the machine lah kan. Asalkan dah below 0.1, 0.01 dah consider undetectable dah kan.
Betul lah.
Yeah.
So if there's
Okay,
a lab that make you happy, and maybe we go to that lab more often, like that.
Okay,
Yes,
gentlemen, for time factors, can we have one last question for Dato Sri before we move to the next speaker?
Okay, can we have one last question, please?
Can I say a few words?
Hey, Dr. Lawrence, go ahead.
Okay.
Hey, can you
Dr.
put on your
Sri,
video? We want to see your handsome face, Dr. Lawrence. Cool.
Okay, Dr. Sri,
okay, go
welcome
ahead.
to the board. Okay, I actually myself almost have the same issue as you. I detected my prostate cancer when I was in UK. I'm very young, about your age. Now it's more about 10 years already. Okay, my decision score also like you, 9. Very aggressive. Doctor gave me 6 months to live on, but now I'm about 10 years. Okay, and the one question is that maybe it's too early to say. I'm just talking to some UK people. They have some funding, humanitarian funding. I like to talk to you privately. Is it advisable to have this type of funding for the our society, but not in the group here, because it's involved in dollar and cent. So any chances that we can get in contact, I can get some advice from you how we get this type of funding to Malaysia to help the society. Thank you.
You just let Consing know. I'm sure we can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Why not you talk to
I can
me
give
and
you
then
I can give you a number right now.
Lawrence, I will give you the proper channel, and then we'll see how your idea can resolve. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything funding, I think any funding is good as long as there's no cables attached, no string cables attached. You know. If it's any funding is good, that we can be more active towards early detection and also to treatment, especially for the people who cannot afford the treatments. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we have more or less come to the close of the first speaker, our keynote speaker, and we learned quite a bit. And I was first time I learned that his Gleason score was 4+5, and for all those people who have diagnosed with 4+5, look at the example, good example from Dr. Lawrence Koo and Dato Sri Nazir, all the good results. And no wonder we were amazed that nowadays, even in KL, people are operating on 4+5. In the past, I think Dr. Prof Ong will agree with me. Once you have that high Gleason score, you dare not touch. Yeah. But anyway, can you all unmute yourself and put your hands together and give a round of applause to Dato Sri Nazir. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'd like you to come back again to join our Prostate Cancer Society. That's most important. Okay.
Thank
all
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Oh, this is very enlightened to us. Okay, we'll move on to our next speaker. And next speaker, actually, we don't need introduction because Prof Ong has been here with many times. And but this time we are going to, he's going to review the most recent study on the real life issue of nearly with 2,000 samples, survivors on the survivorship in Malaysia. Okay. And for those guys who doesn't know Prof Ong, I'll give a very 1-minute introduction. Prof Ong is the head of the surgery department. Of course, the urological unit is under surgery. Now, Prof Ong's special interest is prostate cancer, and that is, of course, very rare. And Prof Ong is also the current president of the Urological Association. And we hope that our society will be invited to their conference like every year. Okay. That is another request. Okay. And of course, he's one of the lead members of the Urological Trust. Okay. And he's very active in many other professional bodies. Now, through the years, Prof Ong has been very supportive to our society. And he is a marvelous speaker. And as I told you earlier on, when he speaks, there will be a lot of people attending. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I saw there are some ladies here. So can you please put your hands together and welcome Prof Ong. Okay, Prof, all yours.
Yeah, okay.
Prof,
Okay.
excuse me. Let me mute everybody. After, can you please unmute yourself so that no one
okay.
interrupt? Okay. Okay, Prof, please unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm muted already. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to Guan Xing and the whole team. So today I will talk on the real world survival in stage 3-4 lah. Stage 3-4. So it might not affect everyone here. So so acknowledgement, thanks to everyone, also the grant provider lah. There are many institutions who provided grant for us, including Dato Sri, Nazir, Razak lah. Okay, so I think give some background because this disease doesn't affect everyone. Maybe affect a few of us here. Okay, what's the main thing is metastatic disease, meaning you spread to the bone, lymph nodes. Those are the common site of the disease spread. We say the metastatic, so the keyword is metastatic. When the doctor communicate, they seldom use stage 4, the disease, because even though that is stage 4, but the word they use is metastatic. So that's the lingo. So how do we diagnose? How do we know what that person has metastatic disease? A lot of times present with bone pain. That's the main thing in old days when they have bone pains, or they have a blood test that they show the PSA very high. Which is PSA more than 100. Yeah, whenever we teach the medical student, we tell them if your PSA is more than the patient PSA more than 100, more than 500, more than 1,000. So very likely the patient will have metastatic or stage 4 disease when they first come to see us. So that baseline initial PSA is important. And how do we diagnose? If they first come to us, a fresh new patient, have not joined Prostate Cancer Society Malaysia yet, those that haven't joined yet, who come for the test, what do we do? At the moment, yeah, they do bone scan, standard, yeah, PSA more than 100, we think that's metastatic disease. Besides all the blood tests, we will do the bone scan, standard. We will do a CT or an MRI. Those are standard. Those are standard. There's a term for that, it's called conventional imaging. Conventional, accepted internationally. Yeah. Then come the question earlier regarding PSMA PET scan. So for this stage, at this moment, PSMA PET is still not the conventional, still not the standard test at this moment. Maybe future, maybe future. So this is an example of a bone scan. We show the disease spread to the bone. Those are the dark spot. You will see the dark spots. Okay, those are the spread to the bones. This is an example. Okay, bone scan. Okay, then the principle. Yeah, how to treat them. Actually, the principle to treat the patient have a metastatic disease is quite straightforward. Yeah, because the principle is the prostate cancer depend on testosterone to stimulate, stimulate it to grow. Yeah, so you just block the testosterone, just suppress it. Yeah, quiet. Yeah, don't make noise. Yeah. Okay, so that's how it is. So we used to use the term hormonal therapy. Hormonal therapy. So more specifically for prostate cancer, we call that ADT. So that's another lingo. The doctor will talk ADT. Yeah? So this is the term that is useful for us to know, that kind of a language the doctor use. Yeah. Androgen deprivation therapy. Yeah? Deprive the cancer cell of androgen, which is testosterone. Yeah? Don't feed information to the cancer cell. So the cancer cell will stop to grow. Yeah? They will freeze. So important term for us to know. I think some of you might have ADT, some might not have it. Some might not have. Yeah? So this is discovered, the principle is discovered by this guy, Charles Huggins. During the World War II, this guy is a Canadian, later migrated to America and become an American citizen. So during World War II, 1940 to 1945, that period, he discovered this principle. At that time, you look at the chart, interesting one. That time got no PSA1, Nobody know about PSA1. Nobody do PSA1 at that time. They use acid phosphatase. That at those time, You know, during my medical school years, that time I also don't have one. You study open textbook, I tell, oh, you do acid phosphatase. Acid phosphatase high, and then maybe got bone disease because it's released by bone related to that acid phosphatase. Those days. Nowadays, nobody use that anymore. So for that, he won the Nobel Prize, you know, in 1966. 1966. And then another person, Andrew Chalet, and this guy's still alive. This guy is still alive, still in America. This guy is still in America. He won the Nobel Prize in 1977. So 66, 77. So easy to remember. The kind of twin number. He discovered the pathway, you know, the whole axis of it. You know, who control the testes to grow. Actually, from the brain one, you know, when the brain secretes some hormone to the pituitary just below the brain, that pituitary secrete LH, luteinizing hormone, and tell the testosterone to, you know, to produce testosterone. There's also another 5% of the male hormone androgen that come from the adrenal. So that hormonal pathway described by this guy, you know, Andrew Chalet. So basically, how do we achieve ADT? Achieve to bring the testosterone down. Mainly, there are these few methods. So like bilateral orchidectomy, those are the technical terms to remove the testes, or LH-RH analog, like leuprolide. Leuprolide is leucine, as we all know. And there's goserelin, which is Zoladex, triptorelin as well. And LH-RH antagonists, like degarelix, those things, and anti-androgen as well. Just for knowledge, just for knowledge. So that's the background, you know. And we expect the PSA to drop. We expect the PSA to drop, and most of the time it will. So we have a lot of people. So it's just like our COVID curve, it will drop. One day the COVID will become less. Then how do we monitor the response after the ADT? Is by the PSA measurement, or radiographic. You do scan again to see whether those spots become less or what. Clinically, whether they have a less pain or so, So again, like COVID test, you know, where we don't do PCR, we do a PSA. Instead of PCR, we do a PSA. So we regularly test the disease, see whether it's still there or not. Just like we testing whether COVID is still there or not. Okay, for Malaysia, we know this data. We are familiar with this. This is the latest national registry. 7.7 per 100,000 population, ranked number 3 among male. Male, we don't talk about female. Nothing to do about female. So for male, number 1 is colon. Number 2, lung, from the smoking and all that. Number 3, prostate. And then there's like kind of ethnic variation. Okay. Next one is, this one. That's why we quote the figure, about 60% had one disease. So stage 4, 15%, stage 5, 53% in the National Cancer Registry. So how about survival? Survival. Actually, there are published data as well, from different malignancy. And you see that the prostate one ranked very high. Prostate ranked very high. Okay. So next one here, you see, the Malaysian study on cancer, you see, prostate, if stage 1, 2, 3, in 5 years, more than 90% of the people will be alive. But when it is stage 4, about 43% will be still there after 5 years. So that is the official data. You get it from the Ministry of Health website. We can get the official data. And then, with that background, we work with the University of Tokyo and other Asian country, University of Malaya. Later, we get grant from the Ministry of Health by the NIH. We start to prospectively collect data for Malaysia. And that's what the publication about that Kwan Sing mentioned about. So we have the local data. Okay, 2016, 5 years ago, we call all the ketua jabatan, all the big bosses of the country, the public hospital in the country. So we describe that we want to, start this thing. Then we visited various hospitals. This KK, QE, Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I'm not sure whether they are audience from Sabah or not, from KK, or that they might be KK. The sister very helpful. We say, can, we will help. The sister who led, who tengah-tengah there, that's the sister. Then after so many years, finally we gathered the data after three prospective year of data. We published the information. Just September 2021. Prostate cancer in multi-ethnic Asian men, real world experience, Malaysian prostate cancer study lah, MCAP. So the name of those involved. Here we saw, some of the. Okay, those are the ketua-ketua lah. Ashani there also. No, Ashani ada. More Ashani Yusof. Dr. Ashani name there also. Dr. Murali Sundram there as well. Dr. Tay from Kuching. Yeah. Okay. So these are the main hospital involved. So this basically, I think, cover 90% of the public hospital in who offer urology service. So Sabah only one, KK, Sarawak, Kuching, Johor, Sultanah Amina, Klang Valley there, Penang, Alostar, and then Kota Baru. We will next time we get Kuantan. Next time we get Kuantan. Also, we might get Kubang Krian the next time. Okay, this is important chart. Yeah, it based on the different area, the GDP, the income of the area. And you look at Kuala Lumpur, high GDP. So less people present with the pink color one, the stage 4. You did 53%. When the GDP becomes lower, like Sabah example on the left-hand side, 72% presented with stage 4 disease. So the resources to detect the disease also is important. Detect, later need to manage. So you need a lot of financing one. So it's not so simple as one PSA test. PSA is the cheapest thing of all. Yeah. Subsequent biopsy lah kena duit kan. They need money. After biopsy kena scan lagi. That one need money. After scan kena treat. That one also need money. I'm sure everybody understand the impact. How much money we need to spend kan. So that is a survival curve from our prospective data. This is a prospective data, which is consistent with the national registry. But this now we have a published data already. Yeah. So you see, the top 3 lines are stage 1, 2, 3. So there are, more than 85% of the patient they will survive, beyond 5 years. Whereas the lower line, the one with stage 4 disease, about 50% of the patient will be still around, after 40 months. So that is consistent with international data, international from the Western country or all that. So this is quite consistent. In fact, we probably done a bit better sometimes. Yeah, depend on which country we compare. Yeah. So, but there's a caveat. Yeah, this data that we collected now, they are the era. With kind of a simple, what we said, just ADT, no other agent, just give ADT, then we can achieve that, which is quite reasonable at that time. Yeah. However, now, like what Kwan Sing had mentioned, they are new agent. They are new agent that you add on will prolong the survival of the patient. Will prolong. They will not live. It will be 40 plus. It won't be just 40. The median, not median, some people long, but the median for 40 months. So chemotherapy, prolonged life. Abiraterone, like we mentioned, they had to come with prednisolone, a steroid, or enzalutamide, or apalutamide. So that's standard. Those are standard of care. We call that standard of care, SOC. So that is something we could help everybody be aware that we can help patients prolong their life. Like Kwan Sing had mentioned, they prolong their life. So it's significant. That is significant. So we need to be educated on that. Number 1. Number 2, we need to find the resources, how to support the patient, like we have highlighted to Dato Suri earlier. This is a common effort. I think Kwan Sing also involved in the TAC. With the other oncologists, Prof Aisha and the other Prof O and so on, and then local MP to fight this. America face the same problem also. It's not a Malaysian problem. It's a worldwide problem. America face this kind of resource problem as well in a rich country, even in a rich country. So these are the extra final point. If a patient, your friend who presented with metastatic disease, they are again some final point. They are de novo when the first time presented with metastatic disease. There's a metachronous, these are technical terms, that they have a initial surgery, like they have a radical prostatectomy, they have radiotherapy, and after a few years, they develop metastatic disease. That's called metachronous. They are a bit different characteristic, a bit different one. And there's also a high volume metastatic disease. There's also a low volume metastatic disease. There is this thing will come about when the patient discuss the management with the doctors. High volume meaning there are more dark spot in the bone scan, for example. Low volume meaning they have less dark spot in the bone scan. Yeah. So in summary, we just want to keep to time. Summary. Majority of patients in Malaysia are presented with advanced disease. That's why the initiative to detect early by the good intention. And then one of the survivor, one of the cancer, the best survivor. That fact we need to remember. So we cannot, we encourage the patient, we cannot, hey, don't give up hope. Don't tell your neighbor that this is the end of the world. It's not, many things you can do. Like you have helped your patient so much in your group. You have done a lot of good things for people. Spread a lot of goodwill and give a lot of hope to people. That's very important. I think the positive mentality is also important. This is proven by data. On the cancer, the best survivor. Next one. Of course, if they develop advanced disease, metastatic disease, ADT, the androgen deprivation therapy, that's the backbone. That's the backbone. You must have that. Of course, now there are survival advantages with newer agent. That is, we slowly need to bring that in. We need to bring that in. So actually, many Asian countries like us, they still use the ADT as a backbone, whether give additional agent or not. There's still yes, no, cannot, cost issue will come in, and so on. Yeah. So that's the thing we have to address together. So this is the last slide. This one is a picture we taken of the group of people of different discipline, family medicine, doctor, urologist, oncologist, to discuss about the teaching module. We created an online teaching module to teach the doctor, not only the GP, the whichever discipline, that look after the patient. Then when patient come for PSA PET testing, they know what to do, they know what to advise. So that was the teaching module that Dato Sri Nazir mentioned earlier, of which his charitable fund is funding this project. It's almost done already. It should be launched in 1-2 months' time. Just some technical computer thing. Now it's basically computer thing. The whole content is there already, just the network thing to be settled in. So you see many people are involved in the background. We need to educate, not only the patient, also the doctor, including myself, every day I'm still learning. In fact, after this, I need to prepare some more lecture for another group already. So that's why keep learning, keep to read a lot of things. So that's that. So with that, I should end my sharing here first, and I will hand it back to Kuan Sing. So at least now 2:51. So allow a few minutes of Q&A. Probably that will be beneficial. Thank you. Okay, Kuan Sing, back to you. Kuan Sing, you're muted. Kuan Sing, you're muted.
Kuan Sing, can you please unmute?
Yeah, okay. Prof Ong told me that he got engagement after this, so he has to leave. But he is willing to take a few questions. Maybe I'll fire the first shot. Prof Ong, from your experience, with all these second liners, of course, the first one is chemo, ABI, ENZA, apalutamide. These 4 things. Now, of all these 4 things, which is the one that you think that eventually have the best potential?
Oh, okay. This is a Kuan Sing's question. He said now you got 4 choices lah. We won't say so 4. Which one is better in the future lah? Now you say 4 good. Who know next time you tell me only 5 good or cancer. I think that's the question. So the answer is at the moment of the knowledge, as far as we know, 4 equally good one. So that's why we don't no international guideline or international expert there to say, oh, this one better than that one better than that one. Nobody can say that one, because all of them improve the survival in the same magnitude. same magnitude. At the moment, maybe next year they tukar kan, that one we don't know. At the moment, consider as far as the target of prolonging survival is the same. But of course that the side effect profile is they are different. Different between different drugs.
And the follow-up question is, how do you sequence it? That means which one go first and this one come later, because you can use one after another, right?
Yeah, there's no fixed formula to add, that's why it's always a lecture topic. When something is always repeatedly being a lecture topic, meaning nobody know what's going on. The thing is called sequencing, Also depend on the patient characteristic, and then the discussion with the urologist and oncologist to see which one first, then some won't follow by which one and all that, There's no simple answer to that.
Okay,
other
Mr.
questions?
Param, Mr.
Yes.
Param Silvam,
Raise his hand.
question. Can you please?
Prof, thank you so much for the continued education. Just one question. After surgery about 2 years ago, my PSA is under control at 0.0203. Should I just continue with that monitoring, or should I do any other monitoring? I mean, how do I make sure that I'm on track all the time?
Understand. Thanks, Mr. Param. Thanks. But I just repeat Mr. Param's situation. Mr. Param had surgery to remove the prostate 2 years ago. Now, of course, after surgery, you do the PSA test, just like we do COVID test, make sure we don't have COVID infection. So now the PSA is 0.02, around that, right? 0.02, 0.03. What should we do? So that is the answer. That's the question. The answer is, if it's like 0.02, 0.03, best to leave it alone. Best to leave it alone. Until we kind of a bit higher, 0.01 or 0.1 or something. Because very hard, if you PSA so low, even you pay money to do the PSMA PET scan, pay 3,000, pay 5,000, very likely you won't pick up anything. So at the moment, peculiar for your position, it's best that you monitor your PSA every 3 months first, and not rush to any PSMA PET scan. We wait for the PSA to be higher first.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thanks, you're doing well.
Prof. Ong, there's one question from the participant. The question is, if one failed Rucrin, Epilatron, olaparib, taxoxyl, cabisataxel, what is the next treatment option other than nuclear medicine?
Oh, this one is a question that the meaning failing many line already This is they will enter a stage called metastatic CRPC but that's another technical term. Very far advanced already CRPC. So there are many treatment. There are standard treatment. There are investigational treatment. Not sure. So if failing everything, there are two answers. One is just supportive care. They got pain, we treat the pain. They cannot pass urine, we deal with the urine problem. So that is the supportive care, number one. Number two, if there's any clinical trial, then you enter to a clinical trial. They got new drug X. If it's okay for this one, then we try the new drug. So they basically, these are, if everything, basically those listed there are the almost the whole repertoire of treatment already for CRPC, as we know.
Okay, now we have a Cheng Kiet. You have a question?
Is it the same one, or your hands up, Cheng Kiet?
Yeah. Okay. I have a question for Professor Ong. Okay, Professor Ong, is it true that this prostate cancer would recur after 10 years?
It depends on the stage of the patient, the initial mula what stage. If some people are really cured, they might not recur. So there's always a risk of recurrence for even stage 1, 2, 3.
There is a chance of recurrence.
There is a chance. But it might not be very high if you are stage 1, or stage 2.
No, even though your PSA is still maintained at 0.01.
If the PSA is very low, 0.01 or 0.02 or whatever, That one most likely, if 10 years still like that, most likely no issue lah, most likely lah.
So there's no recurrence. So there's no recurrence.
Very rare, very rare, very rare lah, very rare lah. So that's why, yeah. That's why I check on that. Because I'm going to prepare a lecture after this on there's a conference with China, China Urological Association want to have a conjoint lecture with us. The topic they asked me to prepare is PS. This thing, exactly thing like you have surgery or whatsoever. After that, what is your PSA, how to monitor? I also scratching my head, and then I checked it just now anything less than 0.2 is okay one after surgery. That's why I checked this now. I'm going to verify further later on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one last question from the participants. After prostatectomy, the PSA after 3 months, I think, raised to 33. He wants to know what is the possible cause of such high PSA reading.
So if after surgery, the PSA is 33, 33.0 lah, not 0.338. After 30 is 33, so we have to look for whether there is two things, whether there's local recurrence, meaning the disease is still there around some disease in the pelvis, near the prostate, or the disease have moved on to other places. So what we should do, that one, if you want to do a PSMA PET at that time, maybe yes, Conventional answer will give you do a CT scan, you do a bone scan. That's a conventional imaging. So that is a standard answer. You can do that. Bone scan plus CT scan. Bone scan plus CT scan. You must do that if the PSA is 33. And then number one. Number two, if you have the resources, you can go ahead and do a PSMA PET scan. But of course, I think first thing to do, double check the PSA one more time. Siapa tahu the lab lousy, mix up you with someone else. Maybe you're 0.303, they tell you 3. The printer ink not enough. Print wrongly. The printer ink supposed to print 0.33. The no ink, when you reach 0.18, no ink already. Check one more time. There might be error. Maybe error. Okay?
Okay, one last question from Colonel Allen. Then we move on, Kuan Seng.
Okay, Colonel, go ahead.
Maybe I have one more question for Prof. Ong later.
Okay, yeah, 2 questions then.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colonel Allen, please go ahead.
Okay, I have a very simple question. You did mention in one of your slides that to have a clinical checkup for metastasis is DRE. I am not sure whether DRE is used at the beginning of the biopsies or before biopsies, or it is now an activity, DRE, for checking metastasis. How does the doctor know that there is metastasis with DRE examination? Thank you.
The DRE is not to check for metastatic disease. It's the initial assessment. Assessment with the finger. There's a DRE stand for digital rectal examination to examine the prostate. At the beginning must do, because I want to see the prostate, how hard, how big. That's important.
Thank you. I understand that. I thought you can search for metastasis with that fingering.
Cannot.
Okay, thank you. My error.
If can, that finger very good, better than SMA PET scan. Your finger, 5,000 ringgit, your finger. I hope I had that finger.
Thank you.
Okay, Albert, go ahead. Your last question,
Albert, yes.
Can I have a question? In the last 3 years, do you think there are any changes in the treatment of stage 3 and stage 4 prostate cancer in public hospitals, especially in rural areas? Are there any improvement for the last 3 years for stage 3?
Last 3 years, I think what we can do is that, what we say is that probably the awareness, it would have increased somehow through your effort, to Dato Sri Nazir Raza effort. So there's some awareness. People will probably, more people will come and say, hey, what is prostate? Should I get the test? That's number one. That is the upstream, we call it upstream, to detect early. That is upstream. Downstream, once it's become stage 4, how you manage when it comes downstream. That last 3 years, I think, because of various factors, maybe the pandemic or the economic factor, and the ADT, no issue. Malaysian, you got stage 4 disease. I think the healthcare system at the moment is still able to sustain the ADT part. It is the extra part, the extra agent part. That I think what the biggest achievement so far is from Guan Sing, your group lah, that you bring down the abiraterone price. So it is out of the 4 treatment. Actually, chemo is quite cheap also lah, but most people don't want. Chemo is quite cheap. Next one, the oral one, the cheapest is abiraterone. You guys managed to press down the price of abiraterone. So in the government hospital also, because of all the factor, of competition and all that, so they have actually pressed the price of abiraterone now is below 2,000. You guys have 1,004. Actually, government hospital is starting to be below 2,000 already now. So there's a big achievement from your group. So that's where I see the improvement in that sense. But of course, there are a lot of work to be done.
Thank you.
It's a good
how do you view between RB and ENZA? Is there a superiority with ENZA compared to RB?
Okay, good question. Okay, you example lah. Too many details to compare. Just compare two aja. Abiraterone compare with enzalutamide. How do you compare?
Yeah.
Okay, benefit same. You will prolong survival one, same one. The one no need to argue about that one. That one at the moment lah. No need to talk about that. Talk about that the side effect. People who are on abiraterone because they need a steroid. So people with diabetes and all that, maybe the diabetes becomes susah to control a bit because got steroid. But the moment people take steroid, the diabetes, the sugar will be haywire a bit lah. So need attention to pay attention to the diabetic control. Example. Enzalutamide, it doesn't have a steroid, so it will not affect the diabetes control or whatsoever. But every good thing got the bad thing also lah. Enzalutamide, about 30-40% of the patient, they have tiredness. They're tired, no energy. They take the tablet, they won't come and attend your webinar Zoom like that. They are too tired. They cannot listen to what's happening. About 30-40% of the patient, enzalutamide. Of course, the second hurdle now is the price. I think the generic probably will come soon. The original one after discount, everything, 1 month is about 7K. After they give discount, so the price is still a prohibiting factor lah. Beside the tiredness, the tiredness is what the well-known side effect. So there's a kind of all plus and minus about each drug. And then just extend further. On the new drug, apalutamide, beside price, I say we don't talk about price. The new one, apalutamide, 30% people get skin rash. You get rash all over your body, all the red spot. Yeah. So again, people don't like that as well. So each one got its own plus and minus. That's why you need the doctor's input lah to check the patient, tengok apa dia nak and all that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should
maybe allow one final one. If there's no final one, I think we
stop here.
Let Prof Ong go.
Prof Ong needs to move on. Thanks, Prof Ong.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, Prof Ong,
just 1 minute. There are 2 questions written, but I think we let Dr. Ashani to answer later, right?
Ashani, everything knows. So Ashani very senior. Ashani was my senior in medical school, We the same college.
Oh my gosh. Is Dr. Ashani here?
Yeah. Both Dr. Ashani and Dr. Lingeswaran already checked in.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, Prof Ong, we really appreciate your presence here. I know you're very busy. And as usual, I think this is your 3rd or 4th time presenting to us, actually. And we really learned quite a lot. Let us all unmute ourselves as usual, put our hands together and say thank you to Prof Ong.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker is...
Kwan Sing, wait 1 minute. Let me unmute everybody first. All right.
Hey, Prof Ong, his hands up. Prof Ong, you put your hands up. No. Okay. Okay, you
clapping. I mean, you clap all you also, man.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay, you are.
Okay, Kwan Sing, can you please unmute yourself? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Dr. Ashani has given us the slide. So can you please load all the slides, Stephen?
No, I mean Dr. Lingeswaran, not Ashani. Dr. Ashani didn't give me any slide.
Oh, okay. Ashani, I thought he did.
Now the next talk is Ashani.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought he did. Wait a minute. Did he?
Oh, sorry, because I only have Dr. Lingeswaran slide.
Ah, that is a bit of.
Sorry.
Wait, just hold on. Just hold on, please. You can unmute Dr. Ashani, whether he has sent us or not. Dr. Ashani.
No, I didn't send any slide. The slide.
Oh, you didn't send any slide. Oh, that saved a lot of problem. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we'll start with you soon. Okay. I introduce you in Dr. Ashani. I think we know Dr. Ashani through the years. He has been really associated with Prostate Cancer Society. Okay. We have met him in many functions. And as far as I know, Dr. Ashani is a very, very humble person. And this morning, I text him. I said, Dr. Ashani, how do I introduce you? He said, very simple. Just say, I work in hospital KL. That's good enough. Not really. I think you are more than that. You are one of the head honcho there in HKL. And he is one of the handful of urologists in Malaysia who lead and perform robotic surgery. And I can tell you, you go to HKL, the guy, who is really specialized in robotic surgery and leading the teams is Dr. Ashani. Now, he is not only in HKL, is also one of the leaders, key urologists in the whole of Malaysia. And I can understand what his motto is, and he could make easy surgery easier and difficult and impossible surgery feasible. So he is very, agile with his instrument, the robotic arms, And we are very proud and lucky to have such a humble and dedicated urologist in HKL and Malaysia. And we are very pleased that Dr. Ashani is free enough to join us. And please welcome, unmute yourself and welcome Dr. Ashani. Dr. Ashani, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Konseng. Let me share my slide first.
Oh, you can share. Oh, yeah, okay.
Can you see my slide?
Yep. Yes, clear.
Okay, good. First of all, actually, I would like to thanks Mr. Das, Konseng, and also your society for inviting me for this wonderful event. I think it's good. It's good opportunity for me to see all of you and share the knowledge, the skill that I have, because I'm the person who believe in the called medicine is not pure science. In medicine is the art of applying science of human being. Without the patient, actually, the knowledge, the skill that I have is useless. So I need to have the patient so that my skill will be useful for others. So I hope actually Dato Sri is listening to my talk. So that can get some help from him so that we can strengthen the service of robotic surgery in Malaysia. So as we know that actually we are in the era of minimally invasive surgery. Previously, long time ago, we are doing open surgery. Nowadays, basically, minimally invasive surgery is the standard of care. I think this is the future. Open surgery, I consider is, I'm not saying that it's outdated. Basically, it's the old technology that human beings use to treat any kind of cancer, especially in our topic now is for prostate cancer. So then from the open surgery, then we move on in 1990 by laparoscopic surgery. In my work now, most of the surgery actually can be performed by minimally invasive surgery, either for the kidney, for the bladder, or even for the prostate. So I try to do as much as possible actually to to perform the surgery by minimally invasive procedure because I think it's the future. I try to cultivate the attitude of young surgeon nowadays. Basically, these are the future. You need to force ourselves actually to learn so that we can give the maximum benefit to the patient that we are treating. But of course, this procedure is not easy. It's difficult. It's difficult to learn. It's difficult to master. But I think with time, we still can be good in whatever we are doing. So laparoscopic surgery is technically more demanding. It needs specialized team. It's slightly more expensive and with the consumable and disposable that we use. But the advantage is outweigh the challenge. So we learn to do this procedure as much as possible. For the kidney surgery, I think it's much easier as compared to the prostate surgery. So these are the latest development in urology fraternity. One of the things about the urologists, we are very adaptive to the new technology. Somehow I'm quite happy to be in the urology fraternity. Because I find out actually the urology fraternity, we are very adaptive to the new technology as compared to some of the other surgical disciplines. So, and I like to use. I always use this kind of idea that the one thing actually differentiate between human civilization and the animal civilization. If you think about strength, I think the animal much stronger than us. But the one thing actually put us ahead of animal civilization that we are able to use the tool. Previously, we used the tool for open surgery, and after that, we move on to laparoscopic surgery. In the future, I do believe in the future that we are going to use robotic technology in any kind of surgery that patient needed. So this has revolutionized the way that we treat the patient, and the patient actually demanding for this kind of this kind of procedure. I think all the young people, young surgeon now, even the patient now, actually, when you go and see the doctors, you need to ask them. You need to ask them what kind of procedure that you're going to do, and ask them what the option that is available, so that you can get the best possible option that available now. I think we are doing injustice to the patient that actually, if you are not doing what is the best based on the current standard that we are practicing now, even though we are not developed country, but we wish that everything that we do actually at par with the developed country. So these are the previously you want to access the organ inside the abdomen, you have to make a bigger incision so that you can see. When I learned from my boss last time, when you do surgery, what are the important things? They said access, because without access you can't see. But with this latest technology, that actually we can create the small hole through the abdominal wall, so that we are able to see what is inside. So these are the beauty of technology. Instead of looking straight to the organ, that we are looking basically we just take small hole and create the what we call the space inside the peritoneal cavity. And God is great because He created the peritoneal cavity for us to use it. So, but we just need to find a way how to use this cavity. It's already there. But sometimes we use the procedure, and as we know, that kidney basically kidney actually located outside the peritoneal cavity, which is behind the peritoneal cavity. So sometimes we do have the situation that we can create the cavity so that we can access the organ. But this one is a little bit difficult because it takes time to create organ. So God is great. We go to the peritoneal cavity, much easier. The space is already there. But we go from behind, we need to spend a little bit more time to create the space, but it can be done. Just a little bit more time. If you compare to the previous one, much faster. Within 5 to 10 seconds, you can create the space already. But by this procedure, you need at least about 5 to 10 minutes to create the space. So now we go specifically to prostate. So actually, the prostatectomy, history of prostatectomy, actually for the prostate cancer has been there since 100 years ago. But the problem at that time with the prostatectomy, there's a lot of complication, very high number of complication, percentage complication, especially like bleeding, case of ED or erectile dysfunction or total incontinence. So this kind of complication, we can cure the patient from the disease, but actually we're creating another problem to the patient. So that's why most of men at that time actually avoiding to go for surgery. And before that, actually everybody will go, because of that, every patient will choose to go for radiotherapy, even though we know that that may not be the best kind of treatment that. But because of the complication, people are avoiding to go surgery. When doctors sitting about a treatment, we always look at how effective the procedure to be. That is the perception of the medical doctor. But when we are looking at the perception of the patient, they are looking at the perception of how much complication, how safe the procedure that the procedure can offer to me. So the patient will choose not the most effective treatment. They're going to choose what is the most safe or safe treatment that they can have. So these are basically the founder of open radical prostomy, and Dr. Patrick Walsh. He tried to figure out actually why actually most of people avoiding surgery, and they found out all these complications, and then found out actually this operation, open radical prostomy, is very difficult to perform. Very difficult to perform and need a lot of training. But this basically he interviewed him about robotic prostomy, and he said that I'm the robot. So if someone can be the robot like Patrick Walsh, he doesn't need the robot. But most of the surgeons may not be able to perform as good as Dr. Patrick Walsh. And any procedure that we do, any kind of procedure we do, there is a learning curve for every surgeon. But based on this paper, actually mentioned by Dato Sri just now, he was treated by this very experienced top surgeon in UK, Dr. Das Gupta. He said that to learn to be good about open prostatectomy, you need to do about 250 to 1,000 cases. So you need a lot of number. And if you go in detail and you look through all the urologists in Malaysia, if you ask them in detail how many operations that they have performed for the past maybe 10 years, I don't think anyone actually, maybe selected one, yes, but anyone actually can achieve this number to be good and do open prostatectomy. The difficulty of doing the procedure, because the location of the prostate is very deep and in our pelvic cavity, and it's very small. So the location actually not allow us to see the organ better, including the nerve, including the blood vessel. So that's the reason actually why minimally invasive surgery, either laparoscopy or robotic surgery, is very useful for this kind of procedure, because it allows human doctors actually to operate in very confined space with minimal mobility. So these are basically the pictures from Dr. Patrick Walsh. When he performed actually open radical prostomy, you will have the wound basically from the symphysis pubis right up to the umbilicus. It's quite significant length of the wound. So then this kind of wound will come with some kind of complication, infection, or pain. So and you see that actually we're supposed to use the blade actually to retract, open up so that we can see. This kind of physical retraction actually will cause some kind of trauma to the tissue. So this is basically the view of the prostate. You can see the view. This is basically the symphysis pubis. This is basically the prostate. And this is a very huge vessel we call dorsal vein complex, where if you're not controlling this vessel well, it can cause significant amount of bleeding. So laparoscopic prostatectomy started in 1990, and actually it can be performed either transperitoneal, as I mentioned that actually the cavity actually already created by God. Extraperitoneum, we have to create the space. So there's so many techniques that we do, but technically it's very challenging, because as you see that the prostate is here, the surgeon is here. This one I didn't do for the prostatectomy. I did it for the bladder cancer. And now basically I can't controlling the monitor because the monitor is controlling by another assistant, and I need a very good assistant, and I need to operate from the side. So this is a hand-eye coordination that we need to learn, and to do suturing is very difficult laparoscopically. So this is the situation where someone tried to do laparoscopy possibly. It's not ergonomically to the surgeon, and after the surgery, he's going to become very tired and fatigued after this kind of surgery. So these are the reasons why people say that a laparoscopic surgery is non-ergonomic. It's a non-ergonomic position to the surgeon and require very steep learning curve. And it's only allowed 2 directions of movement, either side by side and up down. And we lost a depth perception because the T2 monitor, with the 2D monitor, we lost because God is very great. It creates us with 2 eyes so that we have a depth perception. But with the moment we do laparoscopic work, we only can see in 2 dimensions. So we lost a depth perception. Of course, there's a way how we overcome this depth perception problem, but it needs training. So based on similar study, if you look at the number of cases that from 250 to 1,000, to be good in doing this procedure, you need to perform at least 200 to 750 cases. So the huge number, and we go through all the surgeons in Malaysia. I'm sure that not many surgeons or urologists in Malaysia able to achieve that number to be good at in doing this laparoscopic radical procedure, but some are good. So it means that before you even do, you need to go to the center, high volume center, specialize in this area, learn as many as possible that you do. But if you compare to the robotic assistant, you just need 40 procedure. You just need 40 procedure to be good at of doing this surgery. So we put 40 procedure, I think is achievable by many of the surgeon or urologists to be good at doing robotic prostatectomy. Now we move on to the robotic assisted surgery for the prostate cancer. So now God is very great. It creates human with 2 hands, with finger, with different function, and we able to move our finger as compared to laparoscopy. This creation is it's marvelous creation, and it's very difficult for human to basically create something similar with what the human is, because the human is the best ever creature created by God. So now this is basically the video by Dr. Mani Menon about the robotic surgery, and I think good to listen from what he's going to say.
For the surgeon is the exquisite clarity with which he sees internal structures. He's read about them when he was in medical school, and he has seen the human body hundreds and hundreds of times, but he's never seen it with such depth of perception and such brilliant colors and vibrance as through the 3D vision of Da Vinci. Robotic surgery is still surgery, and surgery has been around for over 100 years, perhaps, for prostate cancer. So we're still doing the same operation. We're just doing it more precisely, more humanely, and allowing the body to heal much quicker with the robot.
So Dr. Mani Menon basically is not the founder of the robotic surgery, but he has a passion about robotic surgery. He was trained by Dr. Patrick Walsh about open surgery. He went to France to learn laparoscopic surgery, and he said that no, the procedure is not for me. So then he went back to Detroit under Waticuti Institute, but he's very lucky because the robot was donated by the Waticuti Foundation actually to buy the robot, and he started using it. The advantage of the robotic surgery because of the eye. The eye is 10 times magnified. So even now, if we do open surgery, and we do open surgery like ophthalmologists, they are using the surgical loop. People are using microscope so that we are able to see better. So if the surgeon able to see something better, and they can do their job much better because the vision. Without vision, we can't see. So the magnified vision allows us to work better, and it gives a 3-dimensional image back as compared to the laparoscopy, and overcome the depth perception. And he has a 7-degree movement exactly like the wrist, except it's small, and it's a comfort to the surgeon, so that hopefully the life longevity of the surgery is longer so that they can serve more people. So this based on the paper published actually, the numbers of open and laparoscopic surgery is getting less and less. More and more people, especially in the developed countries, are going for this procedure robotically. Recently, I spoke to one of my juniors where is now actually in Sydney, this Westmead Hospital, that actually almost 100% of the procedure done in that hospital for prostate was done robotically. So it's just a matter of getting the technology. Once you get the technology, all the procedure going to be done by this technology. Similarly, in Korea, almost 100% of this radical prostatectomy performed robotically. So this are basically just introduction to you how the surgeon work is not actually at the patient side. He's working at the console. This basically the console is like the cockpit for the pilot. You move the hand and the instrument moves together. You have the leg like a car pedal for the dichotomy, moving the camera so that you can move the eye by yourself instead of depending on the assistant. So a lot of things that we are getting back our independent as a surgeon as compared to laparoscopy. Laparoscopy, I have to depend on my assistant to handle my camera. But this one, my eye, I get back my ability to handle my eye better. I can move the vision wherever I want to move, getting closer or getting far away from the site of the surgery. These are the beauty of technology. Of course, this technology comes with a price, so it's very expensive. So after we create the port, similar like we create the port for laparoscopy, but we need to basically attach this robot to the patient. And then we operate from the console. So these are the different things. And this robot actually, this basically the latest robot that we have in Hospital Kuala Lumpur. This is a third generation. They are coming with this the fourth generation. So hopefully in the future that we have this fourth generation in Malaysia, which is much smaller and nicer to work with. But of course, it is little bit more expensive. So after we create the space, now basically these are I mentioned to you about the plexus that actually it cause a lot of bleeding. By using this technology, you can see very clearly the muscle at the pelvic side wall. You can see all the layer of tissue and you put the needle nicely, and your hand actually move nicely, which is not possible with laparoscopic procedure. And then we can see all the nerve, as mentioned, that one of the complications of the radical prostatectomy is the erectile dysfunction. So by using this technology, we can able to see preserve the nerve as much as possible because the less bleeding, the surgeon will be able to see better with 10 magnified view and give a depth perception, small movement, so very precise kind of movement. So hopefully by doing that, then we can preserve, just take up the prostate without causing the damage or the adjacent structure. So this is interesting paper actually conducted in Sydney. Is basically high level one of evidence in medicine. So it showed that if you do open surgery or do robotic surgery, there's no different in terms of the outcome. But people don't realize actually in this paper is comparing the surgeon with 20 years experience of open surgery as compared to 2 years experience in robotic surgery. So the technology do allow the young surgeon acquire the skill much faster than before. So these are the technology do allow young surgeon to acquire the skill as good as people that already done the surgery for the past 20 years. So these are the technology allow us to do now. It help the surgeon to be better, faster with a small number of patients during the learning curve. And so these are the conclusion of surgery. Even though it's associated with high cost, recovery is better. And it's supported also by the paper actually published in AU, which is one of the top paper in urologists. It showed that by using this technology, it costs less blood loss. For some people, blood loss is nothing. Basically, blood loss, you lost blood, you just replace it. But people don't understand the blood actually priceless. A lot of people can use it for other important things. If you can read spare the blood from this procedure, the blood can use for other things which is more important. So less blood transfusion. But in terms of complication, it's not much different. In terms of positivity margin, also it's not much different. It depends on the surgeon. So that basically the overall about how the prostatectomy performed worldwide. Open surgery, laparoscopic surgery, and also robotic disc. So I hope you have good idea about the procedure. And if any one of you go and see doctors about what they're going to undertake, please do ask how experienced they are about doing this surgery, how many cases that they have done, what is their status of their complication. Because this is very important information, but usually in Malaysia, we are very kind. We seldom ask this kind of very difficult question to the surgeon. But I think as a patient, you have a right actually to ask the surgeon or doctor treating you, asking them specific question to know to evaluate their expertise in that particular area. So when we're talking about robotic surgery in Malaysia, I cannot run away from talking about Dr. Shabuddin. He's very passionate about surgery. He was my boss before. I was very lucky, actually worked with him a long time ago. I started this surgery in 2004, at the time that he introduced robotic surgery, and I worked in his team. Actually, he's very passionate and worked very hard to bring the robotic technology in Malaysia. Even though at that time, everybody are very skeptical about him. And basically, telling him a lot of negative things, but he has very strong desire to make a difference. He has strong influence in the organization, in connectivity to the authority and to people in the world, so that we're able to bring the technology to Hospital Kuala Lumpur. And we know that Hospital Kuala Lumpur is basically a public hospital. To get that kind of money to buy this expensive instrument, not very established procedure yet, it's not easy, but he managed to do it. So he not only managed to do it in public hospital, he also managed to do it in private hospital. These are the things about Dato' Shabuddin. Very passionate, very persistent. He will do whatever it takes to make sure that it is done. And he's very connected, local and international people. And he has the ability to communicate convincingly. These are the things that sometimes we doctors, we don't have. We are not salesmen. We don't know how to sell to people. Even though we are good, we're not able to sell to people that what we are doing. So, and sometimes it depends on luck also. Sometimes you need a friend. You need a friend. So this what I hope that you all can. You are connected to Dato' Sri, and then hope you can influence Dato' Sri so that the Malaysian government under through Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education will get this technology in the country for our young doctors so that you can learn. So they at least they have experience and see. So maybe in the future they have the passion, actually the desire to go to in this particular field. And the last one, we need to be persistent and persevere. So these are the thing that we need to do to venture to get into this kind of endeavor. So this is basically the machine that we have in 2004. The old machine, the first generation. We are among the first actually in Malaysia to have this machine. We are earlier as compared to Korea to get this machine in the country. But unfortunately now the number of machines available in Korea is much more as compared to us. So this basically the workshop that we conducted in 2004, actually together with Dr. Mani Menon Group. We brought in Dr. Mani Menon Group to HKL for 1 month to learn about doing this procedure, to make sure that we are doing the right procedure and doing it safely to our patients. So I'm quite proud to say that after Dato' Shabuddin and after that he retired, and then the survey continued by Dr. Murali, also very passionate about the procedure, and we worked together. We managed to convince the Ministry of Health and the government of Malaysia to buy another machine. And as you know that this technology will only last for 10 years, Every technology that comes will last only 10 years. After 10 years, the company is not going to produce any more spare part disposable, but we managed to convince the authority people to get a new mission for HKS so that we can continue the service to the Malaysian. And this is a new machine that we have. Basically, I did basically this one for the not for prostate surgery, this for kidney surgery. And these two young doctors are from UPM actually came over to HKL to learn. And now I'm very glad to see that even the University Putra Malaysia has the machine, and they already started their program about 2 years ago. So, but you look at the map, you look at Malaysia, we remain as only five for 33 million population. So I do hope in the future that we can have more machine, more surgeon doing this kind of procedure, so that more people going to benefit from it. And you see that in Korea about 53, in Japan actually the number exploded after the insurance actually willing to pay for the robotic radical procedure. Is the insurance company willing to pay for this kind of procedure? Because the insurance agents always find a way how not to support people to the best, even though you are paying a lot of money. These are the things, something that this Prostate Cancer Society can work around. Basically to persuade the insurance company actually to support people, to support us to give this kind of treatment to our society, and they are basically their policy beyond what actually allowable with their policy. So people always say that prostate robotic surgery actually are very expensive, but even in private, if you compare to robotic surgery in private compared to even heart surgery, even the neuro surgery, the cost is about the same. Why people are talking about the robotic prostomy is expensive? Other thing also expensive, but why the insurance people covering of the other kind of procedure, but not covering this kind of procedure? And we know that the amount of the coverage is beyond the amount that they need to pay. So these are basically the community, the policy holders must fight on and talk to the Dato Sri, because Dato Sri can involve in the CIMB, so talk to the banker people. All these things can be done. Go beyond it, go around it, and the moment the insurance people are willing, the insurance company are willing to pay for this kind of procedure, and more procedure can be done in our own people, and more people can benefit from this kind of technology. So in HKL, basically, I'm proud to say that we have the center with the highest number of cases done since 2004. Of course, we have done it so many procedures. Even the last one actually. This is the last procedure that we are doing in HKL. Is a very difficult procedure for taking up the lymph node from beside the big vessel and big vessel in the abdomen, and patient can go back within 3 to 4 days, as compared to before that they have a huge wound and they end up in the hospital maybe longer. So this technology actually do allow us to do our job better, and the only thing, the problem is the cost. So I think that comes to the end my talk. I hope I'm able to enlighten to you about the robotic surgery that's available in HKL and also in Malaysia. And I do hope actually more and more people come forward. People don't come forward for surgery because they see the complication that come with surgery. And I do hope if more people think that actually we can do surgery with minimal morbidity, even in Malaysia. In Malaysia, the only thing, the numbers of the machine is limited. Of course, the waiting time in HKL is much longer. So, but hopefully in the future, more and more robots available in Malaysia, and we can shorten our waiting time. With that, I thank you. Once again, I would like to thank Mr. Das, Kwan Seng, and your society for inviting me to give this talk. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hey, thanks a lot, Dr. Ashani. Okay, I think Dr. Ashani will take a couple of questions, a few questions, and I see that Dr. Ashani showed that on the public sector, there are only about what? Only about three robotic a machine, right? One is HKL, the other one is University Putra, and the other one is Sarawak, Kuching. But the Kuching one is they are going to scrap it soon, right?
No, the machine in Kuching is not functioning anymore.
Oh my gosh! So now we have only two then. You only got two.
No, we do have another machine in UITM, but in the private side.
Yeah, it doesn't count. Once it's private, that people have to pay, and a lot of people cannot afford. I know that now if you have insurance, you can claim from insurance.
But
But the thing is that really we need more machine. I think that is one thing we need. I think the place that we have to lobby for is maybe one in Penang or something like that, or another one.
No, I think if you ask me, you should lobby for the insurance company actually to pay for robotic procedure first. No point having too many machines and the insurance people doesn't want to cover. So
I thought the insurance cover, is it Stephen Kong, is yours covered by insurance?
It's only a few insurance cover. I mean, potential is one. I mean, Dr. Ashani is the one who potong me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
actually not many, and then they have a lot of conditions in terms of this prostatectomy surgery, which is true. I mean, Dr. Ashani is right that if the insurance can pay at least co-pay, if not full payment, at least co-pay is still better than nothing, right, Dr. Ashani?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course.
At the current situation now, for the insurance company, it's like robotics really is not necessary. It's not necessary, you know. So I think that you as a public and with connectivity, you should use your platform because we can't press the insurance people because we are the got some special interest for that. So, but you as a public actually, especially sometimes I don't understand why. If your policy is 2 million, why are you rejecting people to get this kind of technology for 60,000? It doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense. So I think this is the thing. But if you are getting the machine, too many machine, insurance people doesn't to cover. Nobody also can get access to the machine. So actually proven in Australia, proven in Japan. The moment the insurance people are willing to pay for it, and willing to accept these are basically a standard of care for this kind of procedure, I think more and more people with insurance get to benefit from it.
But I was thinking as a public hospital, of course, people don't need to pay. But it looks as if the public hospital is only two places, HKL and University Putra, that has it. Because so the whole of East Malaysia, unfortunately, they scraped the robotic there in Kuching, which is very unfortunate, isn't it? But
no, we are the only country in the world where this kind of technology available in public hospital. You go to anywhere in the world, anywhere you go to Korea, you go to everything, basically most the thing in the private hospital. So that's the thing we should, you need to remember that public hospital is for us to train people.
I think in UK, the NHS will sponsor the robotic, I think, isn't it?
NHS in UK, they insured the tax is about 40 to 60%. In Malaysia, it's only 23 or 36%, and not many people. So we cannot compare directly with the UK because the tax is different.
I understand that it's good to lobby the insurance company. Unfortunately, a lot of us are uninsured. That's a problem, you know. Not because of anything, because of, I mean, we discussed it just now, because perhaps, you know, the fact that most of the employers in Malaysia, after you retire, they don't pick up the bills anymore. Compare the Western world, that means I used to work in the States for a long time. When after you retire, you still are covered by the insurance of the employer. But here, nobody does, no company does. So all of us, after you retire from a private company, you are very vulnerable because you can't buy an insurance, and on top of that, you know, the medical cost is very expensive. But anyway, okay. Any question, please?
I think someone has one. There's some questions in the chat group. Let me check the chat group. Okay.
No, I think Alan said he's sorry to leave so early.
No. Okay. Okay, but is this doesn't? But most of them commented that their insurance now do pay. There's one question by William. William is who's the urologist or oncologist in Malaysia that have specialties treating prostate cancer stage 4 bone metastasis?
Lots of them are. Okay, Dr. Ashani.
If you have bone metastasis actually in Malaysia, I don't think so. We have a specialized oncology while treating this disease specifically. But I suppose you can go and see that any oncologist and they're capable and capable enough to handle this kind of situation.
Okay.
Okay, another question from the floor is: any data keep on the success of robotic radical prostatectomy comparing to Singapore GH versus HKL?
That's very sensitive, you know.
We don't compare. I don't think so. We compare from center to center, and that's very difficult. It's not comparing apple to apple. So very seldom that we compare center to center. We never compare ourselves with the Singaporean.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions, fellas?
No more questions.
Okay. If not, then we will let Dr. Ashani go. And hey, thanks a lot, Dr. Ashani. It's the first time we really get a proper look of this robotic surgery in Malaysia, and that is of course HKL. And I'm really unfortunate that I'm not able to be operated by robotic surgery, and because at the time my doctor, I think there's a wrong thing to do. He just said, no, sorry, you know, we suspect that you have a micro mets, and we refuse to operate you. But actually, on hindsight, now the trend is even 4 + 5, you know, just I hear, they can be operated very safely. But can you unmute yourself as just like just now, and please put your hands together and give a round of applause for Dr. Ashani from HKL.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I need to go. I won't stay further. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Shall I introduce Dr. Lingeswaran, who's our next speaker? Dr. Lingeswaran, I believe you are in, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Dr. Lingeswaran is not a stranger to our, Prostate Cancer Society. He has been here, I think, a couple of times. And of course, Dr. Lingeswaran is a consultant nuclear medicine physician and at Beacon International Special Center in Beacon and Pantai. Now, we are very lucky to have him, you know, because he is one of the few nuclear medicine guys who are doing all this forefront in nuclear medicine. Now, he graduated in medicine in 2006 and got a master's in 2013, and then joined the teaching staff in UC Science in Malaysia. And he went on further training on fellowship on radionuclide therapy in the famous Peter MacCallum Hospital in Melbourne. Of course, that hospital is really a center of excellence in Australia on cancer. You know, Peter MacCallum is a very famous cancer hospital. Now, he successfully performed this lutetium, the first lutetium-177 therapy on metastatic prostate cancer, and it was the first and he did it in June 2017, and it is the first in Asia and Southeast Asia, you know, because before that, of course, it's only in Australia that they do that. Now, from now, it is now, he has treated about 300 cycles of, I'm quite sure now is more, on lutetium-177 treatment, all the time in Beacon Hospital. His patients are international, from Korea, Pakistan, Indonesia, Singapore, Taiwan, and so on. And now he is, of course, a very big guy in nuclear medicine. He's the president of the Malaysian Society of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging, and vice president of the Nuclear Medicine College of Radiology and Academy of Medicine. So without further ado, we'll welcome Dr. Lingeswaran again for his talk on the future treatment with actinium. Okay.
Okay, 1 minute. Doc, 1 minute. I mute everybody. Dr. Lingeswaran, can you please mute yourself?
Just one second. Yes, I've unmuted.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks.
Will you be sharing my screen?
Yeah, Doctor.
Hey, just now I thought Dr. Nisa, you try your script. You want me to use?
Yeah. Why don't you share screen, Stephen?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, just now you give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
I get it done first.
No problem. We have a lot of time.
Yeah. You occupy doctor first.
No
Let
worries.
me.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Wong, for the kind introduction, and thank you again for inviting me to give a talk. I think this is my third engagement with our Prostate Cancer Society. I'm very glad to do so. And just as we wait for our slides to be uploaded, I'd just like to say things have changed a lot from the time these technologies were made available in terms of gallium PSMA scans, lutetium. Unfortunately, actinium PSMA hasn't arrived in Malaysia due to many issues. Probably we can discuss that later. But I'm glad to say that gallium PSMA PET-CT has really been taken up, and a lot of people see. All right, I see my screen. Slides are coming up. Okay. So yeah, I'll be talking to you about our future prostate cancer treatment, which is actinium-225 PSMA. We can go to the next. So there are three things that I would like to touch about. I would like to touch a bit about gallium PSMA PET-CT imaging, a bit on lutetium PSMA before we move on to actinium PSMA. So a lot of you will be wondering, I mean, the new members of the society or those who have been newly diagnosed, what is PSMA? PSMA is actually a receptor which is present on the cancer cells, in the prostate cancer cells. It is known as prostate-specific membrane antigen. It is usually highly overexpressed in prostate cancer, and it's upregulated in the state what we call as castrate-resistant metastatic disease. And what we see here is the normal biodistribution of the PSMA PET-CT. And why we do PSMA PET-CT is because it's an excellent target in all stages of the disease, and it's upregulated in androgen refractory or metastatic disease. And right now, actually, honestly speaking, a lot of urologists and oncologists are requesting for PSMA PET-CT upfront, meaning to say the moment they are diagnosed with prostate cancer and they see a Gleason score which is high, even in some cases 7, Gleason score of 9, they request for a PSMA PET-CT. And there are also sometimes certain conditions where you see suspicious findings on bone scan, but you're not sure whether it is metastatic or not. So that makes a lot of difference to know whether it is metastatic or not, because if it is metastatic, yes, the patient, we say technically, is stage 4. But in many cases, from what I've seen, I've done at least about 300 to 400 over PSMA PET scans up to now. A lot of patients have been upstaged just by bone scan and MRI prostate alone. So when we do a PSMA PET-CT, most of the bone lesions do not show any uptake. So what does that mean? Bone scan, it is not very specific for cancer alone. There are a lot of reasons why you can see black spots on a bone scan. Sometimes bone scan actually refers to osteoblastic reaction which takes place in the body. So when there is increased bone turnover, it will show increased uptake in the bone scan. And in those days, we did not have this sort of technology where you have receptor-based imaging. So that's the difference between now and then. So bone scan, my personal opinion, and actually it is slowly being taken over by PSMA PET-CT, besides the usual MP-MRI. Next. So as I mentioned, it can present lesions suspicious of prostate cancer with excellent contrast and high detection rate. And the current usage is maximum in where we restage these patients with recurrence or biochemical failure. And most of the time we see the PSA doubling happens, and we want to know that whether there's any recurrence or not. And this is the time where the oncologist or the urologist will request for a PSMA PET-CT. Keeping in mind, yes, you can do a CT scan, you can do a bone scan, and especially CT scans, you pick up a lymph node, which is less than 1 cm, but you're not sure whether that lymph node is abnormal or not abnormal. So this is where gallium PSMA PET-CT comes into the picture. I was just reporting a scan before this talk, and there was a patient with a 0.3 cm lymph node, which showed high uptake. And we use what we call as the SUV max value of 30. So that is definitely metastatic rather than a reactive node. So why I'm pointing out here is because PSMA PET-CT has its role, and it's just a matter of using it at the right time. And this was the first PSMA PET scan, which was done in Germany, and you can see the PSA level, which is 0.7, and the extent of disease, which is extensive. So we have touched about PSMA PET-CT. Next, we would like to move on to lutetium PSMA treatment. I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about lutetium PSMA. Some of you might even had the treatment, lutetium PSMA, up to now. So where do we stand worldwide with lutetium PSMA treatment? So this is a study which is being done in Canada, where they are looking at when lutetium PSMA should be introduced. So there are centers which are even looking at using lutetium PSMA at the beginning stage, meaning to say a neoadjuvant therapy for localized disease. Neoadjuvant therapy means before the patient goes for operation. So for example, a patient with a breast cancer, if it's a huge lesion there, the surgeon would want to downsize the tumor. So there are centers which are trying to do lutetium PSMA, what we call as lutectomy for hormone-sensitive prostate cancer. And there are also some centers which are looking at lutetium PSMA as a first-line therapy for metastatic hormone-sensitive prostate cancer. So all this while, from 2017 up to now, we were always talking about lutetium PSMA in castrate-resistant disease. As you can see on the right screen, most of the lutetium PSMA studies are taking place as first-line or second-line therapy in metastatic castrate prostate cancer. So now we are seeing more studies which are taking place in the beginning stage, hormone sensitive. All right. So next, this vision trial results which were presented recently during the ASCO meeting in US. ASCO is American Society of Clinical Oncology. So it was a phase 3 trial which demonstrated lutetium PSMA 617 as a new standard of care for men with advanced metastatic castrate-resistant prostate cancer. So this was a very significant study. It was a randomized controlled trial where these patients were they were randomized into lutetium PSMA group and a best standard of care. So it was randomized 2-to-1. And the results were quite impressive. And you can see that in the lutetium PSMA 617 arm, the overall survival was 15.3 months compared to the best standard of care, which is about 11.3 months. And you can see radiographic progression-free survival in the lutetium PSMA group is 8.7 months compared to best standard of care. So best standard of care here refers to any other treatment besides hormonal treatment or chemotherapy. And this is another trial known as the therapy clinical trial, which took place in Australia at Peter MacCallum, actually, where they compared lutetium PSMA 617 against versus cabazitaxel chemotherapy. Cabazitaxel is a second-line chemotherapy, and about 200 participants were recruited. Half of them were put on lutetium PSMA, another half put on cabazitaxel, and the results, as you can see, the PSA reduction in patients who were treated with lutetium PSMA, there was at least about 66% of them showed more than 50% reduction from the baseline. So And the adverse side effects from for patients who underwent lutetium PSMA was also significantly lower compared to patients who had to undergo cabazitaxel. So these two trials, Vision trial and this therapy trial, actually are quite significant in the sense it showed the utility of lutetium PSMA in the management of prostate cancer. And with this Vision trial results, they are actually currently applying for FDA approval. And with FDA approval, it will be good news for the patients because then the insurance companies will have to start covering for lutetium PSMA treatment. So that gives us another bullet to treat our patients with lutetium once they have exhausted all other options of treatment. So now we will move on to actinium PSMA treatment. And how it works is, next slide, please.
Sorry.
So actinium PSMA treatment is also known as a targeted alpha therapy. So TAT there means targeted alpha therapy. It has multiple mechanisms of action. So what happens is it binds to the target tumor cell, which are present on the cancer cells, the receptors. Once it binds there, it causes multiple lethal double-stranded DNA breaks, meaning to say the cancer cells are broken up, that it causes primary cell death. And there's also this, what we call as a bystander effect. A bystander effect is actually when the unirradiated cells, they exhibit the same effect as a result of signals received from nearby irradiated cells. Meaning to say the cell thinks that, oh, okay, I need to die, and it dies, okay? And there's also this, what we call as a potential vaccine effect, which they are looking at using this actinium-225 PSMA. They are coming up with ways to boost the immune system ability to find and destroy this cancer-specific antigen. So these are the mode of action, how alpha therapy works. The next slide will show you how it works. Basically, alpha particles are very high energy particles. It has a very short range and a very high energy deposited. So you can see the alpha sign there. It shows the cancer cells are present, and you see the energy deposited and the molecules deposited are much higher compared to what we see with the beta therapies. And we come to the next slide, which talks about how we treat and how we choose our patients for actinium PSMA therapy. So this is one of the treatment protocol or follow-up which is being used in one of the centers in India. So they choose their patients based on whether these patients are metastatic castrate resistant. They do a baseline gallium PSMA scan, and the uptake of the tumor should be at least equivalent to or more than the liver. And these patients will be given 2 cycles of actinium PSMA therapy at a dose of 100 kilobecquerel per kilogram body weight in 2 monthly intervals, meaning to say we give the first dose now and the second dose in about 2 months' time. So after every 2 cycles of actinium PSMA therapy, at 6 weeks, we repeat the gallium PSMA scan. And if the gallium PSMA scan shows stable disease or molecular response, we give them additional treatment. So we are not going to treat the patients blindly. We monitor the patients with these PSMA scans and also the PSA levels. And if these patients show disease progression, we definitely stop the treatment. And next slide, please. Yeah. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So actinium-225 PSMA somewhat is similar to lutetium PSMA in the sense like the way we choose the patients, we do a gallium PSMA scan. There must be evidence of castrate-resistant prostate cancer with soft tissue or bone disease. And we do the baseline investigations such as your full blood count, liver function, renal function, alkaline phosphatase, and PSA as at least 2 weeks prior to the treatment date. And on the treatment day, similar to lutetium, we ask the patients to have light breakfast, adequate fluids, and we apply these cold ice packs. Because the main, one of the main side effects of lutetium treatment or actinium treatment is the high uptake of the radiotracer in the salivary glands. So what happens is it reduces your salivary gland functions and you have what we call as dry mouth. So to reduce that side effect, what we do is we give these cold ice packs and it helps them cool down the salivary glands. And the actinium infusion is just given slowly over 5 to 10 minutes. And post-treatment scan, radiation safety precautions are almost similar to lutetium as well. For the first 12 hours at least, we ask the patients to drink a lot of fluids. And when you pass urine, flush, pour a lot of water, and keep your clothes separately and wash it separately at least after 1 week, 1 or 2 weeks, and sleep alone in the bed for at least the first night. But I usually recommend my patients to maintain a distance or sleep from your partner at least 1 week apart, at least for 1 week. And toxicities, side effects, I've mentioned earlier, it's primarily related to radiation damage to the normal tissues that have PSMA expression, which is the salivary and lacrimal glands. So xerostomia, or what it means, dry mouth, is one of the most common side effects from actinium PSMA treatment. This transient nausea can be usually controlled with anti-vomiting medication. Thrombocytopenia, meaning to say low platelet counts or anemia, low hemoglobin, can occur in these patients as well. Another common side effect is fatigue. So when there's a lot of radiation in the body, naturally you will feel fatigue. So you need to have a lot of rest for at least the first 1 week after the treatment. And we do not see any immediate acute severe adverse effects or anaphylaxis in these patients. So this is an example of a patient treated with hormonal and chemotherapy. And this patient was refractory to prior lutetium PSMA, presented with, we did a PSMA PET scan, as you can see here, and it shows very good uptake in the lymph nodes, in the prostate, and also in the bone. And after the 4th cycle of PSMA treatment, you can see it's almost, there's nothing else left. And the PSA is also undetectable. So this is what we want. But of course, we are not going to get this in all our patients. And this is a patient who had lymph nodes and bone disease. This patient received 2 cycles of lutetium PSMA. As you can see, in March 2018, his PSA level was 1000 over. He received 2 cycles of lutetium. It came down to 50, and then it started going up slowly. They gave another 2 cycles of lutetium, and they realized that it doesn't seem to work. They moved on to actinium. 2 cycles of actinium PSMA was given to this patient. And in May 2019, you can see the PSA level dropped back to 13.6. However, later on, the patient developed disease progression, and there's nothing much they could do other than offer the best supportive care in this patient. So what you can see is from March 2018 till November 2019, we had some sort of control over this patient with just using lutetium and actinium treatment. And this is another patient who had hormonal and chemotherapy prior to actinium. A PSMA PET scan showed a lot of nodes in the left supraclavicular fossa in the mediastinum. This patient was given 2 cycles of actinium, and after 2 cycles of actinium, there was just minimal residual disease in the mediastinum. And the PSA also came down to 0.14. And this patient was subsequently treated with another 5 cycles of actinium. And 8 weeks after the treatment, when the scan was repeated, it was basically normal. The PSA was also undetectable. So this is roughly an overview of currently published literature on actinium PSMA. Actinium PSMA is not widely available worldwide. So there are few centers which are performing actinium PSMA. So in Germany, of course, it's one of the, what I would say is like As far as nuclear medicine is concerned, Germany is always far ahead the rest of the world. And Professor Kretschmer here attempted actinium PSMA in his patients. There was about 38 patients who he treated, and 33 out of 38 of these patients had a PSA decline, and about 63% of these patients actually had more than 50% PSA decline. And the overall survival in this patient was at least more than 12 months. And another significant study was earlier Prof. Satge in South Africa, and his study also showed similar findings to Professor Kretschmer. So there are centers now which are trying to use lutetium and actinium. So what they have come up with what we call as tandem lutetium and actinium PSMA treatment. So what we do in this is we give them a minimum of 2 cycles of lutetium PSMA treatment. So these patients will have 2 cycles of lutetium PSMA. If there is disease progression, we will give them actinium and lutetium in tandem, meaning to say in the same setting, we give them both. And these patients are followed up, and after 6 to 8 weeks, we follow up these patients with a gallium PSMA PET scan and PSA to assess the response. And these patients are subsequently managed based on what we get on the scans and PSA. So these are some of the examples of patients who had this tandem treatment. So there's this patient who had partial remission. You can see the extensive disease in the mediastinum, in the chest, some of the bone disease. Some of it have reduced. There are some parameters that we look at when we are interpreting what we call as the total lesion in the scans, which like from 4,282 mils has come down to 726. The tumor volume, which is about 588 mils, has come down to 171 mils. And also the PSA level from 123, it has come down to 7. So this is what we look at when we are assessing the response. And this is what we call as a partial remission in this patient. And next, we have stable disease. So this patient also received actinium and lutetium in what we call as the tandem treatment, but you don't see much change in terms of disease extent. You can see the PSMA scan shows almost similar uptake, pattern of uptake, and also all these parameters that we are talking about, TLP, MTV, and even PSA are almost similar. So meaning to say there's no disease progression, it's just the disease is stable with actinium and lutetium. And progressive disease, as you can see on the picture, this patient was given actinium, lutetium, and it became worse actually, meaning to say the disease has progressed. And you can see also the parameters have significantly increased. So sometimes we can have what we call as a discordance between molecular imaging response and biochemical response. So in this patient, the PSA level prior to treatment was about 2,570. So after actinium and lutetium was given, the PSA level came down to half, about 1,251. But when you do the scan, you see similar pattern of uptake. So this is what we call as a discordance between molecular imaging response assessment and biochemical response assessment. So this patient technically falls under the stable disease rather than a partial remission. So coming to local issues, as I mentioned earlier, actinium PSMA is still unavailable in Malaysia. It's not that because we don't have the expertise to do this treatment, we can do it. In fact, it's not a difficult procedure. But the problem is we have limited supply worldwide, and we have to order, for example, we have to just order actinium at least 6 to 4 weeks prior to treatment. And even if we are willing to do that, we have issues with suppliers who are finding it difficult to bring it in. So they can't get the supply, they can't get the context to bring the treatment in. Another potential issue would be the cost of treatment, which is estimated to be about 30,000 to 40,000 per cycle of treatment. When we see these numbers, actually the bulk of the cost is actually because being used for purchase of the medication. It's not the billing or the treatment cost which is high. So right now, actinium PSMA is not covered by insurance. Even lutetium PSMA is not covered. But in the future, if it is covered, then at least we are rest assured that this treatment can be offered to our patients. I am confident that lutetium PSMA will be covered by at least next year, since the results of Vision trial actually very encouraging. And once we obtain FDA approval, there's no issue stopping the insurance companies from covering lutetium PSMA. Regulatory requirements is not a big issue in Malaysia because we use all this radioactive treatment under the compassionate program, and we need to apply for a license to bring it in each time we want to use lutetium or actinium in the country. So these are the issues that we are facing in Malaysia right now. We're still working on it. We are still working with the suppliers, and hope at least next year we will be able to bring it in to our country. So with that, I would like to thank you, and I don't mind taking questions.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, thanks a lot. And I think Dr. Lingeswaran is happy to take up a few questions, I think. From the chat group, I saw that there is one gentleman from Indonesia who is very active in asking a lot of questions. Can Mr. William Tunggadi, can you please unmute yourself, and can you please ask your questions? William, please. Mr. William Tunggadi. Mr. William Tunggadi, you unmute yourself, and can you please shoot? I understand that maybe you're asking for your father or something like that. Yeah, go ahead, William. William, can you unmute yourself? Or in Indonesia, you can't do it. William Tunggadi. Because I have a...
Hello.
Oh yeah, go ahead, William.
Yeah, my English is not good. It's
Never
not
mind,
my
it's
father.
okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're a good son. That's good. Yeah, carry on, William.
I want to ask if we do treatment for prostate cancer stage 4 bone metastasis like Casodex, C3, Xtandi, chemodrugs, docetaxel, paclitaxel, do PSMA lutetium 177 twice in Beacons Hospital, make body is weaker and dead. From diagnosed to dead, just like for 4 years. Why? How many times can you use PSMA, lutetium, and actinium and gallium? Can make 8 years, how many life and side effect? Some doctors speak can make life 10 years, but that just 4 years. Why?
Thank you for your question, Mr. William. But if I can understand correctly, your father was diagnosed with stage 4 disease, I think, if I'm not mistaken, with bone mets. And he has basically exhausted every single treatment, Casodex, Zytiga, Xtandi, and chemo. Meaning to say he doesn't respond to all treatments. And PSMA lutetium was done twice in Beacon. So I assume he should have come to me, I think. Okay, you must understand that not all patients who come for lutetium PSMA are what we call in their best state of health. A lot of them that I see are coming in with extensive disease. Some of them can't even lie down comfortably. So when they have extensive disease, especially when you have bone marrow infiltration, it is very difficult for us to do much. So we do try giving them lutetium, But you must also understand any form of treatment. In this case, lutetium, it's a form of radiotherapy. So when the lutetium attaches itself to the cancer cells, when it gives out radiation, the surrounding normal cells can also be affected. So just imagine the whole bones are affected and we give more treatment. He has already undergone multiple treatments, chemotherapy, whatever not. His marrow function would have been already reduced, and we try giving lutetium. So what I do usually, I give 2 cycles, and if it doesn't work, I see the PSA levels and all going up, then I do not proceed further, because I always believe there's no point in carrying on giving more lutetium and causing more problems to these patients. So that is the reason probably I would have stopped at 2 cycles and not continue. So each patient is different. I cannot generalize all patients into specific categories. I have a patient who's with me for past 4 years, one patient from US. He's what we call as radiosensitive, meaning say each time we give lutetium treatment, he responds well. And of course, the disease comes back, but it comes back in about 6 to 8 months' time. So these are the patients that they do respond to lutetium well. So that we have a lot of extreme. There are patients, there are some in the group as well, I've seen the names. We have given 1 or 2 cycles and it doesn't work. And I tell them there's no point continuing lutetium. We need to look at other options. So the other option that we have is right now after lutetium is actinium. Unfortunately, we don't have that in Malaysia or Indonesia for that matter. Hope I have answered your question.
Okay, is William, is your father still alive?
Oh, it's dead. It's dead.
Oh, he's dead. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, okay. Okay, there are 2 more, 2 ladies asking. One of them is Janice. I think Janice asked many questions. Can you unmute yourself and ask your questions? Janice. Janice, you want your question to answer? Can you just unmute yourself and speak up? Janice,
thank you, Mr. Wong.
Yeah.
Can you...
Oh, Janice, go ahead. Shoot.
Hi, Dr. Lingens.
Hi, Janice.
Hi, I just want to know, out of your 300 cases treatment that you've done so far, how many recovery or successful cases that you've seen?
Actually, the 300 cycles that we're talking about, in fact, it's more than that. Lutetium, it inclusive for lutetium, dotatate for neuroendocrine tumors and prostate cancer. There is no such patient. There's probably a very few patients where we see complete metabolic response, meaning to say from having multiple dark spots in the body to no dark spots at all. Very few. In fact, worldwide, we do not get many patients as such. Probably out of 10, we might be lucky to get 1 or 2. What we do when patients come for lutetium, in fact, even actinium, they are already at the tail end of the metastatic castrate-resistant disease. Meaning to say, these are the patients where we are trying to give them the best quality of life and also to make sure the disease doesn't progress further. So in that sense, yes, our results are matching whatever we see worldwide. In fact, when we started off lutetium in 2017 up to now, our response rate is almost similar to what we see in other centers. The best response so far, as I mentioned earlier, is a gentleman who had 4 years of disease control. The most of my patients, what I've seen is about 1 year, we can control the disease. But the unfortunate thing is, after lutetium, even though these patients show very good uptake on the PSMA PET scan, we are unable to offer them actinium. So I believe in this group of patients, if we have offered actinium, they would have lived on much longer. So that is my thought. And,
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, is that all you have, Janice? Okay, I think the other one who asked a lot is Lucy Ko. I think Lucy Ko is together with Professor Tan Sun Guan, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
Professor Tan. Go ahead, Professor Tan.
Yes, my question is how effective is LU alone without actinium? And the other thing is how do you compare success rate of LU-177 with chemotherapy, with docetaxel,
Thank you.
and the side effects?
Yeah. So if you remember earlier, I showed a slide, the therapy trial, which was done in Australia. So that trial was actually a head-on comparison between patients who were put on lutetium versus patients who were put on cabazitaxel, meaning to say it was like a one-on-one sort of comparison. So they were randomized into this cabazitaxel group and also the lutetium PSMA group. And if we can have a look at the slides, then I can show you further. So in these patients, the response rate is definitely better in the patients who have lutetium PSMA alone. Because even if the patients fail docetaxel or cabazitaxel, the next line of treatment is going to be lutetium. So that is the aim of the trial, which was done in Peter MacCallum, the therapy trial, where they compared cabazitaxel with lutetium. And what they see is lutetium PSMA patients had a significant response rate compared to the chemo patients.
Vis-a-vis the side effects, which has less side effects?
Yes, of course, lutetium has lesser side effects. And with regards to side effects, the most common side effect that we are all worried about is most of the time is bone marrow suppression. Because as we all know, prostate cancer likes to go to the bones. So when there's extensive bone marrow involvement, there is also a possibility of bone marrow suppression, which can occur with chemo or with lutetium. So that's most of the time, that's the limiting factor when it comes to me to decide whether should I proceed further with lutetium or stop the treatment. So that is the most common side effect that I always encounter. And otherwise, the kidney function, renal functions are rarely affected in this sort of patients.
Okay, is there any other question? Can you please raise your hand? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask, just follow up with Dr. Lingeswaran? Now,
Yeah.
Dr. Lingeswaran, now if the patient has not done docetaxel, would you think that docetaxel should be done first before lutetium?
Well, honestly, right now in our country, to be frank, I think it's a bit difficult to convince the oncologists to try lutetium prior to docetaxel. I mean, I'll be very frank here. The level of acceptance, it's not much yet. As you can see, even giving PSMA PET scan, to introduce the PSMA PET scan took me a long time. So to answer your question, if you ask me whether the patient wants to choose docetaxel or lutetium, I'm okay with giving the patient lutetium. But the oncologist might have a different perspective. They might tell the patient, you try the docetaxel. If it doesn't work, you proceed with lutetium, which is also fine. Because what we have right now is we have done a head-on comparison between cabazitaxel and lutetium PSMA. So I assume the results are going to be almost similar if they were to compare docetaxel with lutetium.
Yeah, Dr. Lingeswaran, I think you're talking about that trial.
Yep.
Is it post docetaxel?
Yeah, must be. Yeah, must be.
Yes, most of them had docetaxel as first line, and then they were randomized into either cabazitaxel group or lutetium PSMA group.
So in that case, would you suggest that doxy should come first before lutetium?
I think most likely because you know why. Number one is cost.
Yes.
Number two is that docetaxel is actually not that toxic. You know, a lot of people, especially in Malaysia, can bear with the discomfort of docetaxel, and a lot of our guys here have undergone docetaxel, and they have more or less are comfortable for a few years. Yeah, that's good. Anyway,
one thing, there's a question from Patrick Chiu. Patrick Chiu, can you please
Patrick, go ahead.
Unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, doctor. I would like to ask, what do you mean by diffuse PSMA avid tracer uptake staining?
I see. All right, so there's two different things what we mean as focal uptake, meaning to say you see just one focus there, or you see a diffuse uptake. Okay, if there is, as we know in the prostate gland, there are two lobes, the right prostate lobe and the left prostate lobe. So if there is just one spot, we mention it as a focal PSMA uptake in whichever particular lobe, and we can give them the size and the SUV max value. But there are times where some of these patients have diffuse uptake in the prostate gland, meaning to say the whole prostate gland lights up. So in this sort of patients, what we write it as diffuse PSMA heavy tracer uptake. So there's nothing for the treating oncologist or urologist to go and look for in particular. So if most of the time, what is important is if there is single lobe involvement, it is important to mention there is a focal lesion. In terms of staging, it makes a lot of difference. So if it's just diffuse uptake, then it doesn't matter actually.
Okay, thank you.
Another one asked by.
I think Alex has raised his hand.
Alex raised his hand, is it?
Wait. I think there's a question. Sorry, one second.
Wait. I asked Pang Wai's question first. Pang Wai's question, by your statement, it looks as if that you said that lutetium treatment is really an additional of life for 1 year.
Yes.
It is? Yes,
it is. At least overall response is about 1 year plus.
1 year plus lah. Okay.
Yes.
Which is okay. Alex, you raise your hand, right? Go ahead.
There's one question. Wait, stop first. There's one question from Stephanie. Stephanie, can you please identify yourself? You are caregiver to whom, and then you ask.
Dr. Hing, I think. That's Dr. Hing.
Stephanie Hing, is it Dr. Stephanie? Is it Dr.
Oh,
Hing?
Stephanie Hing. Okay. What did Dr. Stephanie say? What do you ask?
Dr. Hing asked, do you see the role of using nomogram to predict who will respond best to actinium-225 therapy?
Wow.
Difficult question to answer because one, most of the patients who come for lutetium or actinium are paying on their own. So that is one factor. The second factor is it will be difficult to identify patients who might have a bit of neuroendocrine differentiation. So there are some of these patients with prostate cancer, metastatic castrate-resistant, will have a bit of neuroendocrine dedifferentiation in these patients. So to predict which patients will respond best to actinium-225 is a bit difficult at the moment because not much studies have been done yet.
Okay. Why can't you just predict from the uptake?
One thing, for time factors, can we have one last?
Yeah, I know. It's okay. Alex Song is just raised it.
Yeah.
Alex,
last question from Alex Song.
You have the next question, Alex.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Yeah,
I have taken 3 PSMA PET, all with different PSA. So far, no uptake. I wonder whether I have kind of vivid PSMA or not. The first PSA was taken in the PSMA was taken in Singapore GH.
Yeah.
Prior to the RT, my PSA was somewhere around below 1.
Yep.
No uptake. And then after the and another one, I took one just before the RT with you in Beacon, somewhere 2.34. Somewhere in 2019, somewhere in March, I think, no uptake. So after my RT, I had very good PSA 0.005, and then now I have sort of a recurrent. I took another one in IKN sometime in February this year. My PSA is just below 0.5. Also no uptake.
Yeah. All right. The most important thing, especially when you had already had your prostatectomy, when we are looking at the PSA levels, there can be a rise in PSA, but the most important thing is your PSA doubling time.
Yes.
So is your PSA going up slowly over a period of 3 to 4 months or over a period of 3 to 4 weeks? So there's a lot of significant difference in that sense. So that is one. And the second factor is sometimes even with PSA levels of more than 1, we do not detect any abnormalities. Maybe because it is micrometastatic. So micrometastatic meaning to say it is not detectable by using conventional scan. Right. So that is one. Third reason could be your disease is not PSMA heavy. It might be FDG heavy. But at the PSA level of about 0.5, I don't think you're going to find anything with FDG PET scan as well. So the best thing to do right now, if you ask me, is to monitor your PSA. And as I mentioned, if your PSA doubling time increases, that is the best time to do your PSMA PET scan. So,
okay, I had my doubling time at 6 to 7 months, no uptake. I did a sodium fluoride in Subang, and of course they stayed there as suspicious.
Yeah.
Right. Subsequently, I went back to see the nuclear, and she said, "Well, ignore that." I can't remember whether were you with Subang at that time.
No, I don't think so.
018.
No, I don't think so. That is Dr. Yogen and Dr. Darwin.
Yoge. So he retract. He said, "I state that is suspicious only."
Yeah.
So anyway, I went back to see you in 2019.
Yeah.
After the PSMA, no uptake, even though I had 2.34, and I think my doubling time is also around there, 6 to 7 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And this time, this year, somewhere in February too, I think my it probably about 7 months doubling time, no uptake. Of course, it's 0.5 lah.
Yeah.
Right. So could I be one of those many patients that visit PSMA's PET? No uptake?
Yes, there is a possibility, but the most important thing, if you when you tell me your PSA doubling time is 6 to 7 months, it shows that there's a likelihood of recurrence way lesser compared to a patient who comes to us and says the PSA is increasing within 1 to 2 months. 6 to 7 months, your PSA level has risen up to 0.5. So for us, and if we don't find anything on the PSMA PET scan, with that sort of information, I don't suspect recurrence.
Okay. Janice asked, is age a factor? Her father is 78 years old.
Yeah.
Can he be and after chemo, can he be a candidate for PSMA lutetium?
Age, for me, age is not the biggest factor. The biggest factor is the stage of disease. And most of the time, patients with disease in the lymph nodes or soft tissue, they tend to respond better compared to patients with extensive bone mets. So when you have extensive bone mets, basically the whole body, the bones in the axial and appendicular skeleton, everything lights up. So these are the patients that we'll be a bit more concerned and we'll be more conservative when we treat them. So if you just have 1 or 2 spots somewhere here and there, and you can have a lot of lymph nodes anywhere, this sort of patients is not an issue. Most of the time, lutetium works well in patients with what we call as disease outside the bones. So when you have diffuse bone mets, that's where the problem comes, and we need to adjust the treatment for each patient. So I can't follow exactly the 6 to 8 weeks rule in a lot of patients. You know, in most of the treatment centers, they stick to the 6 weeks protocol. But in Malaysia, I find it is impossible for us to stick to the 6 weeks protocol.
Okay,
So to
the
answer
last
your
question.
Okay, last
Can you
question.
have
Who's that?
Dr. Lawrence as a last question, because I think is
Where is Dr.
Yeah,
Lawrence? Hey,
Doctor,
Lawrence, you have a
can I
last
ask
question.
you, can I do directly to take LU 177? I'm localized.
Localized disease, but I remember, Dr. Lawrence, I heard you earlier, you had the disease for more than 10 years, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Is there a need for lutetium PSMA, first of all, in your case? Because if your gallium PSMA scan only shows uptake in the prostate.
Yes, lighten up on the prostate only.
Only prostate. What sort of treatment you had earlier?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So over the past 10 years, how have you been controlling your disease then?
For dietary.
Oh, just dietary. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And some Chinese so-called herbs.
Okay. So,
So can I go directly to LU 177?
For now, I
rather to
don't
wait
think.
for it to go.
I don't
metastatic.
think for now we won't be able to do that, Dr. Lawrence, because I think even though I agree, I mentioned earlier that's what we call as a study which they are doing, lutetium PSMA as sort of like a neoadjuvant treatment. That concept hasn't arrived in Malaysia. So right now, if I were to offer you lutetium PSMA, I'm sure there will be a lot of consultants be wondering why are we offering lutetium PSMA as first line treatment for you rather than going for the conventional treatment modalities.
Yes.
So to answer your question, I don't think it will be suitable to offer lutetium PSMA for you.
Yeah.
But my
That's
Gleason
why-
score is very high, you know.
Yes, Gleason score can be high, Dr. Lawrence. I have a lot of patients where they come in with Gleason score 9, but they have only localized disease in the prostate. So when you have localized disease in the prostate, there are a lot of other ways of controlling the disease rather than going for lutetium PSMA. So one, lutetium is expensive and it is not cheap. And right now, the literatures and all are pointing towards the use of lutetium towards the end of what we call as the disease control. So probably now the best option is to stick to that. Use it at the end rather than using it at the beginning.
Why not we tackle it at the beginning rather than wait until the end of the line?
I think the side effect is one of the thing because
Side effect, yes, I agree. But sometimes the problem is the cost involved in most of the cases. And we need more studies, Dr. Lawrence, because even the lutetium PSMA that I put up earlier in the early stage, there's only one study which is taking place. So we need to see whether there's any significant, what we say, control of disease with giving upfront lutetium.
Yeah.
So
no, I think both lutetium and actinium are really good things because what we need are more bullets. Each bullet will extend our lives, longer, survival time.
And
And,
want to
Dr.
take me
Lawrence
as a guinea pig?
Dr. Lawrence Koo is a Superman anyway. So you
Thank
are
you so much.
survive all this for a long time.
Dr. Lawrence, you better save your money and buy us char kway teow.
No, I can buy 100 char kway teow and send to y'all. Not issue.
yeah. Thanks a lot.
Anyway,
I think
I would like to just touch one question.
Anything? Anybody want to say anything?
Wait. I think one thing. Dr. Lingeswaran has got something to say. Let him say first.
I saw one question from Miss Lucy. After lutetium, can you go back to ADT? Yes, you can go back to ADT. In fact, some of the centers worldwide, what they are trying to do is they're trying to give lutetium together with ADT. So that's one of the trials which are taking place worldwide. So that is definitely a possibility.
Okay.
You
Doctor,
close
who wants to say something else? Or else we have
Alex
to
here.
let
Alex
Dr.
here.
Lingeswaran go. Alex, you still want to go?
Yeah,
go
doctor, one last
okay,
question.
your really final question, Alex. Go ahead.
After 3 no uptake on the PSMA PET, where do you think I could go from here? A bone scan?
I don't think bone scan is going to show you much, Mr. Alex.
Yeah.
If PSMA is not lighting up, I don't think bone scan is going to light up unless, of course, you have any degenerative changes in your body. that will definitely light up. And that,
yes, I do have some degenerations of the bone.
yeah, so that can light up probably, and I'm worried that it might be reported as bone metastasis rather than
yes, yes, of course.
So if you ask me, I think the best, in your case, the best option is to monitor the PSA.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be
So
the best.
I think the best option is think actually rather than half empty, we take half full. That means think on the positive side, you are free.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's come to our end of it. Now we are 4:45 or 48 actually. We have taken a long time, a long afternoon, and we like to thank Dr. Lingeswaran for his regular visit to us, and we look forward to the day when this PSMA actinium will be in Malaysian shore. I think now Singapore is trying to start with the actinium thing.
Yeah.
And for those wealthy ones, you come to the final stage, you might have to go to Singapore.
We are also very close to getting actinium. We are working on it.
That's right. We hope that by early next year, you are started.
Yes.
Cost is the issue, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think we'll come to a close. And can you unmute yourself, as I said earlier on? And let's give a round of applause to Dr. Lingeswaran for another good informative talk. Thank you, Dr. Lingeswaran.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys, if you have not signed up for this Blue Cap run, you can sign it up. If you're a survivor, it only costs you 15 ringgit because all the free slots are taken. Okay. Other than that, please come back again for the forum, or that is coordinated by Stephen. I think it's on the 27th of November.
28.
28th of November.
Yeah.
It's a Sunday, is it? Right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And other than that, I think have a good evening. Have a nice Sunday evening with your family. Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen, for arranging everything. And thanks, Albert, for asking all the questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you.
So remember to give the form to
Thank you.
Dr.
Now you have to can rest a bit.